Part 299. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2994. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. For example, at the lower level of Domain Lord, it does not mean that you must kill the enemy with one strike. If you use 2 moves to destroy all the enemies, it does not mean that you are weak. You will definitely not be laughed at if you use 3 moves. Instead, he pursues desperately to show his strength, and does not just want to kill the enemy with 1 move. This may be fatal, and the possibility of capsizing in the gutter is extremely high. On the last battlefield, we were unexpectedly attacked by 3 senior domain lords at the same time. They also knew the art of war, and with the powerful attack weapons unique to this northern giant, artillery fire and some amazing energy-penetrating weapons, they almost defeated them. The little fish in Jia Yan's belly was hit. Fortunately, Jia Yan reacted quickly, otherwise the little apprentice he had just accepted would be gone. Withdraw. Withdraw. Where on earth did the master find such a powerful person? Damn it! Although the enemy forces in the north had already learned the information, they could not imagine that the incoming force was so strong, and they were caught off guard and suffered a huge defeat. The defeated army retreated like a tide, while the army in charge of the forces, after being shocked, followed the orders from the top and began to pursue them like a rainbow. Since the beginning of the war, has the power of the master ever fought such a smooth battle? Your Excellency is indeed as terrifying as the rumors say. You can fight against the 3 senior domain lords, but, what about the 5 senior domain lords? Just as Jia Yan continued to wreak havoc on the earth, 5 figures suddenly appeared in all directions around him, and the power formed by the 5 people was extremely reasonable. The sudden appearance suggested that he had already made sufficient preparations for encirclement. This is a trap. Oh! What surprised Jia Yan even more was the feeling of being surrounded by these 5 powerful men. Quite similar to that. Join forces to fight? Moreover, he imitated the yin-yang dao joint fighting technique he created. Now it's interesting. Jia Yan? It is said that you were the one who invented the joint strategy. Thanks to you, our fight on the northern front was not so pleasant. I didn't expect that the legendary instructor who was the master at the time would actually become such a being today. Could it be that the master's power has used countless resources to cultivate it, but no matter how many resources are piled up, how can it be possible to create such a strong senior domain master? Everyone, be careful. Although the 5 of us and I can kill him together, we must be careful of his backlash and injure 1 or 2 of us. The 5 people chatted and pointed, as if they already had a chance to win. It can be seen that they are absolutely confident in the combined strength of the 5 of them. After all, the 5 senior domain lords joining forces can only be seen above the superstars. To the outside world, the senior domain lords are all the overlords of one party. How can they join forces to fight, let alone 5 people, even if both of them are quite rare? Oh! The 5 senior domain lords. Jia Yan clicked his tongue in surprise. To be honest, he almost missed this possibility. It is true that the lower-level territory lords are invincible, but above the superstars, if 2-digit senior territory lords join forces and use his yin and yang dao combined skills, it is really possible to defeat a lower-level territory lord. The premise is that what they practice is the orthodox yin and yang dao combined skills, and they must practice it to an extremely advanced level. Are these guys in front of me? That would be a bit wishful thinking. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Jia Yan smiled and looked at Xiao Yuer, who was lying in a small device on his abdomen and looking out through the window lintel with relish. He said indifferently, "Don't be afraid, Xiao Yuer. I'll beat them as a teacher." Yeah. Little Yuer is not afraid. The little fish was probably not afraid. The big fish eyes were shining brightly, showing his eagerness to try. Not only was she not afraid, she even wanted to sneak out and have a fight. Jia Yan didn't care about her. Instead, he looked at the enemy troops in front of him with his head held high and said, "Everyone, let's do it. Be concise and to the point." The 5 senior domain masters did not even think about not taking action. With different expressions, the 3 of them suddenly flew towards Jia Yan. The speed was extremely fast, and the other 2 provided acceleration energy behind them, causing them to suddenly increase their speed. "Come and die." The senior domain master who rushed over first had a sinister look on his face, and there was Gang Chi on his feet, which shot directly into Jia Yan's face. Roll. Jia Yan gave way to this move, without moving his body, and shot directly at his head with one foot. If this foot hits, it can be killed in one blow. However, a strong wind swept in again, and the next senior domain master was already in front of him. Jia Yan was a little surprised. The cooperation of these guys was really something. The power provided to them by the 2 senior domain masters behind them had quite a boosting effect, but I don't know what kind of skills they used. It seems that after so many years of combined skill fighting with Yin Yang Dao, these enemies in the north have no choice. Not developed something similar to Onmyato combined techniques. But imitation is imitation, neither fish nor fowl. Joke. Jia Yan looked a little ferocious, and the giant mosquito mouthpart was pointed at the second attacker who arrived first. The other party didn't expect to be able to use the mouthpart, let alone the needle contained in the mouthpart was so hard. Just like falling into a trap, the head comes to the door by itself and is inserted into the needle that shoots out of the electricity. Puff. Ah! The second attacker looked extremely panicked and was about to save himself. However, he felt a terrifying suction coming from his head. His brain seemed to be flowing water and was sucked into the giant mosquito needle. Suddenly all the strength, as well as the perception of the strong, were lost due to the disappearance of important organs. Damn, duh. As for the first attacker, he was unable to save himself from death, because although the opponent avoided the first foot, he could not avoid the attack of the middle foot. He only saw another slender and powerful toe, which struck fiercely. It stabbed his head violently, causing death and injury to the strong man's important organs. He no longer even had the ability to use brainwave power to repair the damaged parts. "You still dare to come?" Jia Yan watched in surprise as he buried his head and attacked the last charger in front of him. The opponent rushed towards him without saying a word, as if he wanted to fight to the death, as if he thought that Jia Yan had already killed 2 senior domain masters and was not strong enough, so he still had a chance. Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, then realized that this was the strong man from Biostar. They don't think they are so great, because senior territory lords are not extremely rare here. If there are 10,000 senior territory lords in the outside galaxy, then there are at least 100,000 or even more senior territory lords here. After all, this is a superstar. The essence of the entire galaxy. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Since life is not valuable enough, they will not hesitate to take it. If you don't care about your own life, then die. A foot shot through the strong man's back, and he even roared and held out his weapon, as if he wanted to die with Jia Yan, but Jia Yan struck first, with an astonishing brain blow. The wave of power directly tore his body in half. Blood rained down from the sky, accompanied by Xiao Xiao Yuer's milky laughter. Not only was she not frightened, she was even happy. Jia Yan wondered whether his female apprentice was a little bit bloodthirsty. But this is the way to become a strong person. It is better to do this than to make her feel uncomfortable in battles in the future. Gu, these 3 friends are all good, so the 2 of you are left. Are you as fierce as the 3 of them? Jia Yan looked at the two supporters. The two senior domain masters finally changed their expressions. One of them panicked and flew backwards, while the other continuously released brainwave power shocks, seemingly trying to block Jia Yan's actions. It seems that none of you are as fierce as the three of them. Jia Yan was extremely regretful. Before the impact of brainwave power could arrive, the person was like the bubble, and together with the little fish, disappeared from the eyes of the two of them. Subspace talent. The two of them lost their voices in panic again, but unlike last time, this time they really looked desperate. After all, it is extremely difficult for them to escape in the hands of a powerful person who is far superior to them. If the opponent is also a subspace talent owner known for his speed, it would be easier to escape and die directly. Sure enough, a figure suddenly appeared on the escape route of the senior domain lord who was flying upside down in front, blocking his escape route. "This road is blocked," Jia Yenyun said calmly. The escaping senior domain master was so angry that he did not choose to change his path. Instead, he gritted his teeth and launched a fierce attack. However, in the face of the absolute difference in strength, his attack had no effect, and there was no chance that Jia Yan's foot directly penetrated the chest. The brainwave power attacker in the other direction was like a thundering giant, rushing into the distance without looking back, and actually escaped for dozens of kilometers at an extremely fast speed. However, in front of him, a phantom suddenly appeared. The little girl with a milky voice screamed, "This road is blocked." She actually learned well. Puff. Gathering all the brainwave power of the senior domain master and blasting it out like crazy, this senior domain master had no reservations and used all his energy to open up the path to life. "My disciple said this road is blocked, why don't you believe it?" Jia Yan said jokingly, and at the same time, his feet turned into sharp knives and slashed down in the direction of the strong man's flight. Rumble. I am afraid that in the North Superstar, a rare and shocking situation rises. The extremely amazing power of the lower level of the Territory Lord sweeps the world and scares countless birds and beasts. The second, the last level of power. Finally, the senior domain master who was good at brainwave power discovered the true strength of the terrifying and powerful man in front of him. Have you finally discovered it? But it's too late. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Jia Yan sneered, and under the horrified gaze of the opponent, he exploded with strength and cut the strong man in two. "Master is awesome. Ba ba dash." The little fish clapped its two short fins vigorously, and spit out a string of colorful bubbles representing joy from its small mouth. "5 senior domain lords, do the northern enemies already have so many terrifying enemies?" Jia Yan remembered that he had already slaughtered several senior domain lords in this area. He did not expect that the coalition of forces that attacked would also send senior domain lords. Master Jia Yan. It's really Lord Jia Yan. Lord Jia Yan. Just after Jia Yan defeated the 5 powerful men in front of him, he and Xiao heard the tsunami roaring from the mountains below, and the endless sound waves swept up. Several powerful men above the venerable level barely flew into the sky, with expressions on their faces. Extremely excited. "Haha, I didn't expect so many old friends." Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, then shook his head with emotion. "In fact, this is normal. It has only been about 10 years since he transferred the army to this land. With the service period of a strong man, let alone 10 years, it will be 100 years later. Maybe he will come back and meet the old acquaintance." Not many friends disappeared. Grown-ups. "Ha ha ha, Master Jia Yan, you are indeed not dead. Captain Jia Yan, hereby report to you. Jia Yan's troops have lived up to your expectations. In the past 10 years, we have fought and won consecutively, and the enemy has been killed by us to the point of fear. The second unit reports to you. The third unit reports to you. In the Northern War, victory was quickly decided after the strong return of General Jia Yan. The entire area of the master's influence fell into a sea of joy. Countless citizens and soldiers took to the streets and held various celebration programs. Stores even launched discounts or even free activities. On such a big day, even if they lost money, they would definitely make people happy. Haha, you don't have to send it off. I'll take Xiao Yuer for a walk on the street and then leave. Don't you consider staying? If you are willing to stay. Needless to say, I know that my status will not be too low, but as you know, I also have a hometown in the outside world, and my family needs my help. If the power of the master does not have good memories for me, I will not do it this time. I wasted my time to help you. Well, that's it. I will definitely come back to see you in the future. See you again if we are destined. Several high-level people from the master's family, as well as a large number of soldiers and civilians, were at the gate of the army. It was not enough to send him off for 10 miles, and they even wanted to keep Jia Yan. Not to mention such a hero, but also such a powerful and terrifying existence. For the master's power, staying behind can almost guarantee the prosperity of the power for thousands of years in the future. It's a pity. Falling flowers are intentional and flowing water is ruthless. Jia Yan left in a flash, and no one could catch his figure. Not long after, he led Xiao Yuer into the crowd and enjoyed the unique ice and snow festival in the northern region. The colorful and dreamlike scenery opened Xiao Yuer's eyes and made her happy. However, before long, this beauty could only stay in the depths of their hearts. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. The dark figure streaked across the sky and quickly disappeared into the subspace. The next time it appeared, it was already thousands of kilometers away. Are you happy these days? I'm so happy. Fighting is fun. Ice lanterns are beautiful. Ice cream is delicious. Ba ba dash. The little fish was extremely happy, and the tender pink skin of the fish showed the red color caused by being overly happy. Behind the flying master and apprentice are strings of bubbles representing joy. It didn't take much time at all. They had already crossed the settled borders of the master's forces and entered the territory of the hostile country. No one noticed. Even if he flew over the borderland that was still undergoing confrontation and negotiations, there were 5 or 6 senior domain lords from both sides gathered underneath, but as long as Jia Yan didn't want to, they would not be able to detect his whereabouts. Goodbye, the land of the master's power. I will come back when I have the chance. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2995. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Call out. Shadows in the sky flickered. Xiao Yuer was already asleep. In her dream, she put on the thick warm clothes Jia Yan bought for her, which made her already tender and plump even fatter. The countries further north of the master's power are in the cold zone, and all life is cold resistant. Moreover, these countries are extremely scarce in resources. The country is impoverished and has a fiscal deficit. It is no wonder that they are eyeing the master's power. The northern giant is a very strange supergiant star, and its uniqueness is that for many areas of power, the concepts of east, west, south, and north are confusing. Because what they call east, west, south, and north is based on the suns in the sky. However, because the northern giant star is too huge, each sun hangs in the sky and reflects in different directions, so each region divides its own east, west, south, north, and this way of division is often very different from the actual direction. For example, the north that Jia Yan is heading to now is not actually the north. Flying north, it gets colder and colder because you are farther away from the sun in the sky. However, After flying past several large forces, it will gradually become warmer. That is because you have entered the territory of the next star Pueo, and there is another star over there, known as Southern by other forces. Generally speaking, the division of forces will follow a certain logic and will not be random from east to west, but it cannot be unified. After all, everyone has different climate and geographical characteristics. I hope Xiao Yuer can survive those severe cold zones. I'll try my best to relieve some of the cold for her. Call out. Giant mosquitoes flashed into the enemy area, and the biting cold wind swept over them like monsters and monsters. Galloping all the way. My friend, where are you from? Where are you going? Suddenly, just as they entered the hinterland of the enemy country, there was an earth-shattering aura of a senior domain lord rising up. Jia Yan looked at where the aura was coming from and without thinking, he said a word. Just passing by, don't cause trouble if you don't want to die. These words contained power that exceeded that of a senior domain lord. The other party quickly fell silent, and even the existence itself was hidden as quietly as possible. If you are strong enough, you can really do whatever you want. However, Jia Yan's figure has been flying in the air unscrupulously. Flying slowly is not his original intention. Others ask him to show off, but he doesn't want to show off yet. Moreover, among the northern superstars, it's not like there aren't domain lords with ranks. A large force is still a powerful force that can invade the master's force. Although the economy is a bit poor and the blood is a bit rough, its area is definitely large enough. In the ice and snow, there were not many enemies fighting for territory, so it took Jia Yan 5 days to travel through the area under his feet with full flying and subspace travel. However, what greeted him was an even colder place. The country below is a truly huge and sparsely populated country. It spans 2 geographical time zones and has a vertical and horizontal length of more than 100 million kilometers. Its area is thousands of times the power of the person who controls it. However, the number of residents is only the number of people it can control. It is only half of the country's power. It has been an indisputable place for military strategists since ancient times. It can be seen that it is desolate, but this chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Jia Yan looked at the brain in his hand. The geographical indication displayed on it marked the map of the next big ice and snow country. It is praised for being inaccessible, and there are countless areas that no one has traveled through since ancient times. There are rumors here that there is a secret medicine that can prolong life. Jia Yan gathered her wits and looked at the little fish in the device. The little one stared at the ice and snow outside with her big eyes. Under Jia Yan's energy, she could not feel the severe cold, so everything was still there. Quite energetic. Xiao Yuer, have you practiced the cultivation techniques that my master taught you today? Well, Xiao practiced today. Xiao feels energetic now. Jia Yan is quite satisfied with this young apprentice. He has taught many disciples, and he knows how rare such an apprentice is. Not only is she unprecedented in talent, she is also extremely smart. She seems ignorant, but her behavior is very comfortable. In the coming ice and snow country, the temperature will plummet to about 100 degrees below zero. Even my energy will be difficult to say will help you relieve the symptoms of hypothermia, so you must practice to the earth level within 1 day. Do you understand what I mean as a teacher? Okay, Xiao, work hard. Xiao nodded confidently and her eyes stood up, expressing that she would go all out. When it comes to cultivation, Jia Yan is selfless. The road ahead continues. This journey of hundreds of millions of kilometers took Jia Yan much longer than before. But instead of spending it on the road, he was searching in some specially marked places on the map, trying to find some rumored secret medicine. The truth is somewhat shocking. Those secret medicines were either illusory and could not be found at all, or Jia Yan had no connection with them, or he found them and felt the inner power, and made some helpless discoveries. The effects of the medicines were not what the rumors said. It can be regarded as a failure. After going around in circles for more than half a month, Jia Yan finally gave up and flew out of the vast snow field. Xiao Yuer, are you cold? The little fish isn't cold, ba ba dash. The bubbles spit out by the little fish were already snow-white in color. They flew outside the device and turned directly into ice cubes. They fell to the ground hundreds of meters high and shattered into pieces. Your cultivation progress meets the requirements for becoming a teacher. Are you at the intermediate level of Earth level? Xiao has reached the intermediate level of Earth level. Xiao was doing somersaults in the device. Jia Yan nodded. After these days, he agreed with his decision to accept a disciple. This disciple had extremely rare qualifications and was particularly suitable for practicing his yin and yang dao. He also had a talent for subspace. He stopped searching and rushed into subspace, traveling long distances. Judging from the few rare medicinal materials found, it is impossible for this area to produce secret medicines that prolong life. Although it is possible to find some good medicines, the gains outweigh the losses. In this world of ice and snow, it is a foolish behavior to waste the time of the dignified domain lord's lower-level existence in this world of ice and snow, compared with the harvest of medicinal materials. It's better to leave quickly. Being a superstar, there are countless opportunities, but I personally explore every rumored opportunity. It is definitely not the right thing to do. He made up his mind to put aside similar searches in the future. There was no way that there would be anything that fully met his needs on the North Star. Even if he found the secret medicine, he could be sure that no matter how powerful the secret of longevity was, medicine has absolutely no curative effect on Satsuma's shrine with genetic problems. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. It is still necessary to target those well-known pharmaceutical forces and companies. After passing through this land of ice and snow, we arrived at a power whose master's power is unclear. There is a rough map, but it is not detailed. After the official shuttle started, the forces of 100 million kilometers, which were halfway through their journey, quickly flew by. During this period, we did not even encounter many normal lives, and the towns were as sparse as stars, which shows the sparse population here. Just as he was about to pass through this area, Jia Yan felt some very powerful energy, which surprised him slightly. Several senior territory lords accompanied an energy body that was about to reach the lower level of the territory lord. It turns out that there are still strong people in this area, but they have nothing to do with me. Jia Yan continued to act. This discovery also reminded Jia Yan that among superstars, he should never be complacent, and he also felt that the bonds of strong people above superstars were much stronger than the outside world. The strong men outside the galaxy are almost alone after reaching the galaxy level. Even if they are involved with some strong men of the same level, their relationship is as ordinary as water. In this superstar, the connection between the strong and the strong is even closer, because there are forces, opportunities, and a lot of external things that help the strong grow. Through these things, the connection between strong people becomes closer, and there are even some things like sections. As we all know, the bonds between strong people are extremely deep with things like sects, divisions, factions, and forces. Then it is easy for you to fight against each other and attract a group of strong people. In the past, outside the Milky Way, if you killed a strong person, the other person might just be alone. Even if there were any close relatives and strong people, there was a high probability that they were not in the same starry sky. By the time the other person arrived, you would have already left. But it's different here in Biostar. The existence of forces makes it possible for the strong men to be bound together. If you kill one, they will be chased by a large number of others like poking a hornet's nest. Jia Yan suddenly understood. On the side of the master's forces, it is because they know that those forces do not exceed the power of the lower level of the domain lord, otherwise it will attract beings of the same level, and it will not be a small crisis. Call out. So and so. Jia Yan passed through one ice and snow country after another. A month later, even Xiao Yuer, who was very excited about the ice and snow, finally lost interest. He hid inside the device all day, closed the windows, and practiced boringly. Even the bubbles spit out turned into a listless color. Finally, a different scenery appeared in front of the snow-capped snowfield. Wow, it's a mountain. The little fish was making a fuss while installing the windows. Even Jia Yan was a little affected and felt better. After all, he had been staring at the ice and snow. The unchanging scenery was very depressing. Where do you come from, Your Excellency? Under the sky and the earth, there were finally strong men asking in the sky again, which showed that the few strong men in the land of ice and snow were beginning to fill up again. I come from a far-away place. Do I need to pay a toll when passing by? Jia Yan was polite for a rare moment. You are joking. You are such a powerful person. How can we charge you? However, please try your best not to enter big cities. If you do, please report it. Okay, I will supply supplies in the small town. Jia Yan only communicated with this powerful man for a moment, and then rushed directly over him. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. The strong man felt Jia Yan's power behind him. Just now he thought he was going to take action, but when he felt Jia Yan's unfathomable feeling, he almost retreated. Fortunately, he sank into the ground and continued his practice. This area seems to be different from the power of the people who control it. It attaches great importance to external forces. Jia Yan looked at the mountains and small mountains at a glance, and looked at the increasingly prosperous scenery on the ground from above. A glimpse of the leopard through the tube shows that this place should be a place rich in products. The next drug research institution that Jia Yan is looking for is in this area. I am afraid that its capabilities will be even more outstanding than the great god's house. Jia Yan will only act in areas where he has general information. This is the second stop. After passing through, he will go to the next area. Then he will leave North Star and go to South Star, which has the greatest expectations. If South Star has not been able to when he gets the most satisfying thing, he will also visit the two giant stars in the east and west respectively. Actually, he will even set foot on the edge of a black hole and several other starry skies that he has never been to in the Milky Way. Of course, getting to that point will probably not be possible for a few. If he can succeed within 10 years, his wife and others may not be able to live long. Master, should we continue going to the place you said? Before that, did Xiao Yuer forget something? Hey, remember, the master is talking about Uncle Leda. Haha, by the way, it's Leda. Let's go see if Uncle Leda's airship can get there as quickly as we can. Okay. After Jia Yan confronted the first strong man guarding the gate, there was no sound of obstruction on the road behind him. It was probably the strong man who had revealed the person behind him, which also allowed him to fly smoothly towards his destination. He found that he quite liked the feeling of traveling around the world. It seems to have returned to the artistic conception when he was a little giant mosquito. The giant world that can accommodate him, the refreshing horizon, and countless races, life forms, and forces. Compared with the cramped starry sky, it makes people feel more mysterious and mysterious. The feeling of release. Leda boarded the regional travel airship in the northern region of the controller's influence, and they made an appointment to meet in a small town in this area where spring flowers are blooming. Find the book garden. As an outsider, Leda dared to make such suggestions even though he didn't know much about Biostar. Jia Yan also admired him very much. Taking him through ice and snow areas is a very unwise move. It's not that Leda is too weak. He is a middle-level star in the galaxy. Even in the powerful North Star, he is definitely not at the bottom. Jia Yan doesn't lead Leda. Traveling through ice and snow is really because Leda does not have the talent for subspace. Without the existence of subspace talents, traveling through the ice and snow forces would definitely take 2 or 3 times longer than Jia Yan. This is because Jia Yan was half-hearted and rushed while searching for the secret medicine. If he travels in subspace with all his strength, he may be able to complete this journey in less than 5 days. Soon, the small town with huge crowds arrived. This area is indeed more developed than those who control it. With so many people, many of them are businessmen. It seems that the mobility of people here is very high. Jia Yan was inexplicably surprised when he looked at the large number of people moving inside the Fishan Yacht Airport and the many giant buses waiting to carry passengers at the door. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. The little fish's eyes widened early. "Sir, I'm here." Not long after, Jia Yan heard Leda's soft call from among the crowd of talents, and then Leda rushed forward with a bright face. There was actually an accompaniment beside him who was very chatty, but after Leda discovered Jia Yan, he apologized to the accomplice, and the man nodded to Jia Yan angrily and left Leda's side. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2996. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Being able to make friends at will even in unfamiliar places like Bioxing, this Leda is completely social. Leda, have you gained anything from acting alone these days? When Leda came to his side, Jia Yan looked at him with a smile. The little fish no longer stayed in Jia Yan's device, but floated next to Jia Yan, with its cute little pink mouth spitting out pink bubbles from time to time. I have met you, sir. As you said, I have gained a lot in just over a month. A superstar is worthy of being called a superstar. There are so many powerful people. All kinds of experiences and products have really opened my eyes. Leda sighed. The two exchanged a few words and walked out of the traffic. There is a vehicle I purchased over there. It can fly short distances, which can be considered as meeting my recent needs. You have a heart. Perhaps Leda, who came to Boshang for the first time, enjoyed the experience on Boshan even more than Jia Yan did, and enjoyed driving. After the vehicle drove onto the main road, the three of them had a harmonious atmosphere. I also encountered a battle between two major forces on the road. A total of 7 domain masters were dispatched by both sides. 2 of them were senior domain masters. The subordinates were mesmerized by the sight. Many energy usage skills were demonstrated. I really regret not coming earlier. A superstar. Leda talks eloquently. Jia Yan nodded. Stones from other mountains can attack jade. Many of my combat skills are improved from those of the superstar. However, if you underestimate the superstar, you will probably suffer the consequences in the future. Leda was stunned. Although he did not encounter any crisis, he agreed with this point. Sir, you don't need to tell me. I understand that there are many strong people above the North Star. I am afraid that my level of strength is not even second-rate in the North Star. If it were not for your leadership, I might have encountered something unexpected. Jia Yan didn't answer. It's good for him to know, so as not to cause trouble for himself later. A very important thing that Jia Yan appreciates about Leda is that Leda is self-aware. If it were another person, his mentality might have expanded and he would end up harming others and himself. Xiao couldn't understand what the adults said. He leaned against the window and greedily scanned the streets of the new area. She was amazed by the prosperity of this area. By the way, what kind of strength does Miss Yuer have now? Latest conversation shifted to Xiao Yuer. Xiao Earth level senior level. Isn't that awesome? The little fish himself held up his fish scales and boasted about himself. Amazing, really amazing. How long has it been since you have been promoted to a high-level Earth level from having no cultivation ability? Leda was startled. Jia Yan shook his head speechlessly and said, "Don't exaggerate. It takes more than a month to reach a high level. I don't believe you haven't seen her. But don't underestimate her. These more than a month are mainly to lay the foundation for her in the future. Sometimes it surprises you. That's for sure. After all, the disciples you accept personally are by no means ordinary people. The little fish is not the rice is the rice and the fish is the shell. Xiao Yuer, that's called a mediocre person. Well, let's eat rice and eat rice. In a land rich in materials, trade and flow of people are extremely exaggerated. In this area, approximately one country has the population of 3 or 4 powerful countries on the other side of the master's power. Even though the land area may only account for half of the master's power, the comprehensive national power definitely exceeds the master's power. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. The next place of investigation is a pharmaceutical factory close to the influence. It is said that there are many special medicines there, but the industry is so big that it may not be so easy to talk to. My lord personally takes action, Ryo and the others don't dare to ignore it. Vehicles are speeding on the road. Jia Yan and Leda both expressed their enjoyment of this kind of transportation that they had not experienced for a long time, and experienced the artistic conception of drifting with the flow. Gradually, they stopped communicating. Only Xiao Yuer leaned against the window to look at the outside world, expressing his emotions from time to time. Sounds of wonder and curiosity. Although Jia Yan lived in Biostar for a while. In fact, not only Leda, but even he may not understand this new world. At least in this brand new area, Jia Yan's understanding of it is far from adequate. Oh? Could this be a super strong person? When Jia Yan and Leda arrived at their destination, about 7 days had passed. During these 7 days, Jia Yan taught Yuer to abide by the laws and regulations, and there was almost nothing to criticize about the vehicle Leda drove. However, when he went through customs, crossed the border, and went to another power destination, what happened caught him off guard. He got stuck at the gate of a pharmaceutical factory. After many inquiries and making an appointment, I was still stopped at the gate by a so-called director. Yes, this director, my lord, is a super strong man. I have admired the name of your company for a long time and came here to ask for medicine. What are super strong people? Do our pharmaceutical companies still lack super strong people? The conversation between the director and Leda made Jia Yan slightly surprised. Then he smiled faintly. Interesting. This place, North Star, was indeed unprecedented. It had been a long time since he had felt the situation of being looked down upon by someone who was far weaker than him. Such an incident happened right before our eyes. Could it be that in Biostar, there are too many strong people and so many weak people that even one super strong person dares to disrespect him? Leda, don't be impulsive. Jia Yan stopped Leda, who was about to become sulky, and looked at the so-called director coldly. My friend, I know that your company is very famous. This subordinate of mine has shown off my strength and is indeed suspected of using his power to overwhelm others. I am here to apologize to you for this, but you are open to do business. You won't even refuse door-to-door business, so please make it convenient. You must know that Jia Yan is a junior domain lord. He can guarantee that even though Biostar is a place full of powerful people, there will definitely not be too many junior domain lords. After receiving an apology from such a powerful person, the revered director in front of him, I should give him some face. However, something unexpected happened to him. You said you want me to do it for you, so I can do it for you. What kind of super powerful person, no more than a domain lord level at most. I'm sorry. I'm very busy at work. If you two don't have anything else to do, please leave. After speaking, the director deliberately stretched out his hand, hinting at something. I see. He is openly asking for bribes. Jia Yan was so angry that he left. Rita. At Jia Yan's signal, Leda reluctantly took out some of the local gold and silver that had been exchanged and handed it to the director. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. The director looked at the money in his hand and continued to stretch his hand. That's enough for you, Leda was furious, almost shaking with anger, and handed over twice the amount to this person. Haha, you two, I'm afraid I made a mistake. It turns out you made an appointment. Come on, please come with me. The director was satisfied and immediately changed his tone. Don't underestimate this kind of people. It is their specialty to adapt to the wind. Even if they offend a strong person, they will not die easily. This is called the king of hell being easy to deal with but the devil being difficult to deal with. Arriving at the office building inside the giant factory, Jia Yan was quickly able to meet the so-called factory executives. It's a bug-like creature, and its appearance is somewhat similar to Jia Yan's. Hello, sir, we made an appointment before as a guest. Leda first went up to greet Jia Yan. This reflects the role of Leda. He has to do the work of lowering his head. Otherwise, Jia Yan will do it by himself. It will be difficult to do things if he doesn't show off. If he doesn't show off, he will feel uncomfortable in his heart. Fortunately, the supervisor is not the director, and his attitude is quite correct. Hello, this gentleman is so powerful. Welcome to our factory. Do you have any needs? During the contact, Jia Yan had already said that he was here to seek some special help. Is such that? Jia Yan talked about his special needs and specifically pointed out that what he needed was to customize certain targeted life-extending drugs. Do you want our research laboratory to develop certain drugs specifically for you? This, you know, we are a well-known local pharmaceutical company, and the research institute's tasks are quite heavy. If there is no special reason, generally it is impossible for the research laboratory to serve small businesses. I'm sorry. The other party's face was full of helplessness and apology. Jia Yan really didn't expect that a person like himself would be rejected by the factory. Leda could hardly bear it. Not to mention Jia Yan, even he has never felt the feeling of being despised by a little person in the outside world. This, supervisor, right? Do you know how powerful my lord is? It's not that we don't pay the corresponding funds. We have done our best to speak to you properly. I hope you can take care of yourself. Jia Yan did not stop Leda's threat. The atmosphere became tense for a moment. Xiao Yuer flew behind Jia Yan, feeling the oppressive atmosphere, and quickly hid under Jia Yan's wings. The insect-like creature was startled, then smiled. Two friends, we are really helpless. I also advise you not to do anything bad. No matter how strong you are, if you make trouble in our factory, what will happen even if it succeeds? And go to the police station. The bones of the senior territory lord who caused trouble here for the first time are already cold to the core. When the other party said this, it was obviously a threat to not eat Leda. If both sides do not retreat, now is the time for a military confrontation. No, you two, please tell me what you have to say. I apologize for the supervisor's attitude. I will accompany you next. Suddenly there was a soft female voice, and another bug-like creature that looked similar stepped in and blocked both parties. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. But this is a female insect creature, and she looks like an executive from a pharmaceutical company. Jia Yan relaxed his somewhat overflowing brainwave power and looked at the female creature calmly. The other party obviously has a higher position than both the bug and the director. After a while, I learned from her friendly exchange that she was the deputy person in charge of this company, and her status could be said to be quite high. I'm sorry, sir, please forgive our supervisor's attitude. In fact, according to the original situation of this factory, it is enough to open a research laboratory for a strong man, but there is really nothing we can do recently. Please understand a little bit. Jia Yan didn't speak, but later picked up the topic with understanding. I wonder what the difficulties are in your factory? Although your factory has difficulties, our master's time is by no means something that can be wasted casually. He is willing to come here in person, and he already thinks highly of you. Haha, I understand. This gentleman has extraordinary aura and is obviously not an ordinary person. But we really can't help it. The situation is like this. Our family originally had quite sufficient production capacity in this area. Just a few days ago, our production capacity was suddenly taken away by a group of thieves from the west. Although I don't know what method they used, the production capacity of 2 entire warehouses was indeed emptied by them. With no choice, we had to go all out. When construction starts, even the research laboratory has to devote itself to intense product testing, otherwise it will affect the factory's shipment rate and even affect the reputation of our factory, so. Miss Zerg explained the situation, hoping that Jia Yan and the others could understand. Unexpectedly, what she was waiting for was another response. As long as the stolen products are recovered, the laboratory can accept my request, right? Jia Yan asked softly. Miss Zerg was startled, and nodded with a headache. In principle, this is true, but it is so difficult to do this. After all, the thieves are quite powerful, and we don't know whether they have already the product is sold. I don't care about any of this. You only need to answer me whether you have found the things, and you can help me research what I need. Jia Yan interrupted her words forcefully. Not bad, Miss Zerg nodded bravely. Prepare all the intelligence information you know. It is best to find out the hiding place of the thieves directly for me, and I will take care of it. In addition, later, you give them a copy of the cell material. Before I take action, your factory will please come up with a feasible plan for me. If the plan does not meet the requirements, I will not do it for you. Yes, Leda agreed quickly. Ah! The Zerg lady was stunned. She has never seen such a powerful being. Miss, what are you still waiting for? Please bring the information to me. Oh, okay. The female Zerg had a weird heart and quickly started to retrieve the files. She acted with a weird heart. Why should I listen to this stranger? Is this momentum? It seems like I have to listen. But such a confident being must be a very strong person, otherwise, he would not dare to show such an attitude in Biostar. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Miss Zerg guessed it right. Jia Yan is really an incredibly powerful existence for ordinary companies. There is no one in the lower ranks of territory lords, even in the prosperous force they are in. Do you think it is incredible that such a thing exists? It didn't take long. A figure soared into the sky from this prosperous industrial city. Behind this figure is Leda holding Xiao Yuer. Have a nice trip, my lord. Oh, I want to play too. Lada's blessing and Xiao Yuer's voice of dissatisfaction disappeared in an instant. In the moment they spoke, Jia Yan had already burst into the subspace, traveled thousands of miles, and reached an extremely remote place in an instant. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2997. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. In this North Star, the attitude towards the strong is indeed different from the outside world. Above the sky, Jia Yan recalled the previous encounter. In fact, he could feel that the factory executives were vaguely aware that he was stronger than ordinary domain masters. But he still chose to go against himself and did not bow to himself because of his superhuman strength. Although it was very unpleasant, the novelty also made him enjoy it. Anyway, you won't waste much time, so try to fulfill the other party's requirements. He can still afford to spend this little time. The northern giant also has nights, but it is limited by the different orientations of each star. Therefore, the night time may be late or early, more or less, and even in some areas, it is nightless all year round, and is illuminated by stars like a sea of fire. The area Jia Yan went to was a place where the sun shone all year round. It is obviously not far from the rich area, but only a few million kilometers away, which is the other extreme. Along the way, Jia Yan followed the information given by the factory and searched for traces of the thieves. Then came here. Bathed in the sun, his dark exoskeleton absorbed a large amount of sunlight radiation and felt quite comfortable. However, I am afraid that ordinary creatures cannot adapt to this kind of comfort, because the temperature has reached at least above Beidou. These thieves are good at hiding. If they come to a place like this, even if there is some pursuit, they won't like to find them here. Jia Yan smiled knowingly. Compared to the radiation in the starry sky, this temperature is nothing. He went straight into this high temperature area, soared along the way, and at this close range, even if he stopped looking at the intelligence content, he could still find many clues through his eyes, and there was no need for intelligence anymore. It seems to be a rather inhospitable place, but after Jia Yan carefully investigated, he found that this is not the case. There are still many people living here in seclusion, and many of them are engaged in less honorable activities. Hey, if I report it to the ruling forces in this area, I might get a lot of rewards. Unfortunately, I have no such interest. Just when Jia Yan was filled with emotion and continued his actions, the Sea of Fire area had reached a high temperature of 500 to 600 degrees, and a magma-like solution was melting on the ground. Your Excellency, stop. Suddenly there was a surge of awe-inspiring power. Oh! Senior Domain Master. Jia Yan instantly sensed the strength of the owner of this power. He stopped in mid-air calmly, looked at the place where the energy came from, and said calmly, I am here to hunt down a group of thieves. I wonder if this friend has any clues. Thieves? I'm sorry. There are no thieves or gangsters here. If you don't want to leave, you will bear the consequences. The other party has a tough attitude and looks very hard to mess with. Jia Yan was a little helpless. In the North Star, it is difficult to distinguish the momentum. Unless Jia Yan takes the initiative to disperse, no one can feel it even if he is a lower-level territory lord. This is different from the outside starry sky. If he does not take the initiative to restrain his momentum in the outer starry sky, others will easily know his true strength. Even if he restrains his momentum, others can easily know his true strength through his size and appearance. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Here, outsiders can't tell at all. There are advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that he can live an almost ordinary life without anyone disturbing him. The disadvantage is that in similar situations, no one will care about his strength and want to threaten him. After calming down, Jia Yan shook his head. Friend, I have already been polite and polite. I hope you don't ask me to be polite before fighting. Otherwise, you will understand that I am not a soft-hearted person. With Jia Yan's such grand words, anyone would pay more attention to his true strength. At the same time, Jia Yan seemed to cooperate and unleashed part of his power. Bear. This part of the power bloomed and merged with the hot flames in the air, swallowing up a large area of the starry sky in an instant. Jia Yan himself seemed to be bathing in a sea of fire, burning blazingly in mid-air. Hiss. The person who was talking to Jia Yan took a breath of air. As mentioned before, as long as Jia Yan is willing to release part of his power, then as long as there is a strong person of a certain level, he can see his general strength. This strong man is a senior domain master, and he also rushed out of the blood sea of corpses in such a chaotic place, so he can naturally recognize Jia Yan's strength level. He suddenly fell silent. Senior, please wait a moment. I will go out to meet with you right now. I will try my best to do whatever you tell me, Junior. After hearing the other party's answer, Jia Yan also breathed a sigh of relief. He is now afraid that there are all freaks in this North Star, and they are not afraid of the threat of strength. Fortunately, the people I met here were ordinary people. In a moment, a creature that wandered out of the sea of fire flew out of the distance and came to Jia Yan in a short time. I've met my seniors, and I wonder what the bandit you are looking for looks like. I don't know the person I'm looking for, but I know they stole a lot of medicinal materials. The clues were cut off in this area. I believe they are still hiding here. Stealing herbs. The fireman spoke strangely and nodded quickly. There are not many forces that steal medicinal herbs here, especially those who have taken action recently. There should only be a few of them. Please come with me to sit in the house for a while. I will give you orders immediately. Someone go and ask. Thank you very much. Jia Yan was very satisfied with his attitude. The two of them walked one behind the other towards the sea of magma and fire on the earth. The other party was obviously a temperature-resistant creature. Jia Yan himself did not care about the existence of this temperature, so both of them were accompanied by the old god. The strong man who led the way took out his communicator and gave some instructions in certain aspects while leading the way. The response from the other side made Jia Yan a little satisfied. They must be some of the major leaders in this area. Unexpectedly, this senior domain master was a hegemon-level existence in the Sea of Fire area. But it's normal. A senior domain lord living in such a deserted place and not being the person in charge would be a bit useless. The residence that Jia Yan followed the other party into was a lava cave. Not to mention anything normal inside, it was simply in a world of fire. If Jia Yan hadn't been able to use his brainwave power to observe his surroundings, his eyes would have been unable to see anything clearly. Senior, please take a seat. This is a humble house. I'm sorry. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. This isn't a shabby place, it's not a normal place at all, okay. Jia Yan was speechless, crawling down the rock pointed by the other party, surrounded by boiling and rolling magma water. Even though the temperature was thousands of degrees, it was a unique feeling. My subordinates have already started searching according to your request. Due to the temperature in this area, there are actually not many places where herbs can be hidden. I believe it won't be long before a satisfactory agreement comes from my senior. That's good. Jia Yan didn't seem so anxious, and drank the lava water that was brought to him. It was said that it was the best lava for making tea. He couldn't taste the tea anymore, but it was just lava. Fortunately, he belongs to the lower level of territory lord, otherwise, if it were another powerful person like the venerable level, who would dare to drink this stuff? The two of them chatted every now and then, and the other party had been silently observing Jia Yan's behavior. Why, Your Excellency, You don't have that much faith in my strength? Jia Yan asked suddenly with a smile. I don't dare. When I feel the strength of my seniors, my juniors will feel frightened. I think even if they are not the late domain masters, they are definitely masters of the same level that I can't deal with. I don't dare to question you. The other party waved his hands repeatedly. What he said was quite straightforward. Have you ever seen a lower level powerhouse before? Jia Yan asked curiously. According to his opinion, even among the superstars, there should not be that many powerful people in the lower ranks of territory lords. Yes, I was lucky enough to see a powerful person at the lower level of the territory lord during an outing. At that time, it really opened my eyes. From that day on, I understood what it means to have someone outside the world. The strong man bathing in the sea of fire sighed and said. Jia Yan analyzed many things through this sentence. One is that he has really met the masters of the lower level of the territory lord. The second thing is that this strong man doesn't have much fear even for the lower level domain lords. The third point is that I am afraid that there are more people in the lower ranks of territory lords than Jia Yan imagined, at least within the northern superstar, there are many more than he imagined. Actually, the lower level powers are not as scary as you think. Judging from your strength, I must be an extraordinary person, so you don't need to underestimate yourself. Maybe you will be the next lower level domain lord. Senior is joking. My family knows my own affairs. As a senior territory lord, I have been stuck at this level for thousands of years. I think there will be no hope for the next territory lord in my life. Senior, please don't laugh. I have no intention of promotion. I just want to dominate the Sea of Fire area and live my old life well. Wherever, I will never ridicule the thoughts of the person I pursue. There has never been any right or wrong in being a human being since ancient times, so I respect your thoughts very much. The two of them chatted over a glass of wine. Oh no, they chatted about magma. One tried his best to please, while the other wanted something from each other, so they hit it off immediately, and chatting was like a guest and a host having fun. Surprisingly, Jia Yan did not expect that the people in this area were very efficient. Not long after drinking the magma, a communication was transmitted to the communicator of the powerful man in the Sea of Fire. I got the information, sir. There are now 3 suspected locations. Do you need to go there and take a look yourself, or do you want me to send someone to bring them here? This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Jia Yan stood up directly and said with mixed feelings, you are very efficient. I have troubled you a lot. You don't need to do anything next. I will take action myself. You can just pass the intelligence location to me. Of course. Well, before I rush there, just try to hold the other party back and make sure they don't destroy the goods. Senior, don't worry, we will handle things quite safely. That's good, I'm going. Jia Yan flew directly out of the Sea of Fire area. Looking back, he saw that the entire earth was bathed in a sea of fire. He quite admired himself for actually drinking lava with others in that sea of fire just now. A warm feeling rose in my stomach. Huh. But just when he thought of this warm meaning, the warm magma wine turned into violent force and raged in his abdomen. This was a temperature that he had never experienced before. If he hadn't taken the initiative to raise the blue defense after his expression changed drastically, and built the strongest defense in his abdomen, there might have been something wrong with his entire abdomen. Humph. Is it poisonous? Such terrible poison, fire poison. Jia Yan flew calmly, without shaking at all, and flew toward the land of fire as always. He wanted to see if the information given by the other party was accurate. If it was inaccurate, it would not be too late to go back and find trouble for the other party. When I arrived at the location of the first intelligence, I looked down, and sure enough, there was not even the slightest trace of biological atmosphere underneath, let alone the thieves hiding medicinal materials. Jia Yan sneered. Very good, a senior territory lord dares to play tricks on the lower rank of territory lord, then don't blame yourself for being polite first and then fighting. He has done his best. Turning back, we headed back towards the lava twice. By now, the fire poison in his belly has been completely neutralized. I'm afraid the other party didn't expect that Jia Yan not only has blue defense, but also has the ability to devour evolved beasts. Not to mention this level of fire poison, even if it were 10 times more ferocious, I'm afraid it wouldn't be able to hurt him. Of course, Jia Yan's biggest reliance is his strength. A senior territory lord has no idea how strong he is when he reaches the lower level of territory lord. Did you really escape? Arriving at the lava land, Jia Yan found that it was already empty of people. Jia Yan's expression remained unchanged, and he flew down with one foot, like a whip, whipping a large area of lava to collapse. This place must not be a natural place, so he to hide one of the opponent's bodies. The destruction will also make the other party feel a little sad, right? The creature in the northern superstar is really an iron baby. Jia Yan couldn't laugh or cry. Just now I thought that the other party had good eyesight, but I didn't expect to slap him in the face directly. Isn't this senior territory lord afraid of him, a junior territory lord? Jia Yan didn't believe it. The other party didn't feel the energy he had deliberately revealed just now. He must have known very well that he was a lower-level territory lord. Could it be that the value of those medicinal materials is so great that even senior domain owners would not hesitate to fight for it with their lives? Impossible. If it was really that valuable, the factory would have gone to war long ago. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. It can only be said that it is difficult to detect the aura on Biostar, which only increases the arrogance of these guys. Jia Yan did not lose his composure, nor was he blinded by anger. Instead, he chose to examine the traces on the ground and the surrounding scenery, then sneered and moved his body. Drilled into the subspace. The speed of movement in subspace may be something the other party did not expect. Even the native creatures can use the environment and aura to cover up and erase as many traces of their existence as possible. But they would never have imagined that Jia Yan, who arrived during the search, was actually a subdimensional genius. Let the opponent hide, Jia Yan can enter the subspace to search. Not only the environment is comfortable, but the speed is hundreds of times faster than him searching everywhere in the sea of fire. When you find that guy, should you pluck out the skin first, or steam and roast him? The giant mosquito swam quickly in the subspace. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2998. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Jia Yan was still a little angry. Anyone would feel unhappy if he played tricks on himself and completely denied his sincerity. Since they want to play, let's play. I just don't know who will cry at the end. Poof. A toe pierced the body of the lava monster and pushed it up completely. Ahem, you are. The lava monster looked frightened and asked in a daze. The existence that attacked him flew out of the subspace. This appearance was something that most powerful people could never dream of. There are very few people with strong subspace talents. It doesn't matter who I am, what matters is who you work for. Now I want to ask you, where is the senior domain lord who leads you? Huh? Do you want information about, my lord? Haha, I won't tell you. Pyridine. Jia Yan killed this galaxy class with one blow without even a trace of sloppiness. For him, he didn't have much energy or time to engage in coercion or inducement, and if he refused to cooperate, he would kill him directly. After all, Catching such a guy was as simple as routine for him, who could freely enter the subspace. Soon, a lot of rumors about the power of subspace spread in this land of fire. This powerful man is extremely terrifying, and his strength is not inferior to that of senior domain lords. What's even more exaggerated is that he attacks everywhere, entering and exiting through subspace, and there is almost no terrain that can stump him. Several strong men have been harmed by this so-called subspace power. Damn it, who provoked such a great god? There are very few subspace talents. This strong man is the best in subspace talents. I am afraid he came to us in pursuit of some powerful enemies. It's better to compromise with him. It depends on what the other party wants to do. If possible, we will help him. It is considered as spending money to eliminate the disaster. It is most correct to send him away as soon as possible. The powerful men from several lands of fire gathered together. After discussing for a long time, we finally came up with a countermeasure, which was to send someone to come forward to negotiate with the subspace power who had been wreaking havoc in the land of fire for the past 2 days. A place where fire burns brightly. Your Excellency, we have no ill intentions towards you. You can feel free to ask for whatever you want. I don't have any special requests, I just want to recover some of the stolen medicinal materials. Stolen medicinal materials? Let me check. Jia Yan exposed half of his head in the sea of fire, but then retracted his head when the other party checked it. He didn't like being exposed to the sea of fire, and he had no good impressions of the heat of the outside world. After a while, the strong man who was connecting with Jia Yan put down his hineo with a strange expression. I have found out, Your Excellency, that the bandits you mentioned are not from my Sea of Fire area, but from other regions. However, they have indeed settled in our area recently. Jia Yan waved his feet. I don't want to hear you shirk responsibility. Now I want to know if you can help me find them out. I, a good guy, will get all the stolen goods and take them back to report. The other party continued to compliment. I really don't know what kind of power can make you do such a hard work, but, I tell the truth, don't be angry, these medicinal materials seem to have been taken away by the buyer a few days ago. This chapter is not finished, click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Huh? Taken away. Between Jia Yan's giant mosquito's brows, evil auras suddenly emerged, flickering directly in front of the opponent. The territory lord level expert who came to confront Jia Yan was so shocked that he retreated continuously. He knew that Jia Yan would kill even the domain lord level. Let's see, someone took me away, and it's an extremely mysterious buyer. What should I do now? I urgently need these supplies. Jia Yan's tone became unkind. Now that it is difficult to improve his strength, his only motivation for taking risks is to obtain genetic life-extending drugs for his family. If even this motivation is deprived, he may have no ambition to take risks. Sir, don't worry. Let me take a look. The medicines you lost are quite valuable. The other party turned on the brain test, and after seeing clearly the materials sold by the thieves, his face didn't look very good. Jia Yan wants to retrieve those medicinal materials, which is not easy. It seems that the buyer is not from North Star, but from South Star. Sir, I advise you not to pursue it. It's not worth it for this little thing. As soon as he saw Nan Yuxing's information, the expression of the domain lord level powerhouse changed slightly. Whether I pursue the case or not is not a matter for you to consider. All you need to do is inform me of the information you have. Okay, the buyers of this southern star must have purchased similar medicinal materials in large quantities from our northern star. They seem to have the effect of prolonging life. The prices have been very high. They bought them back and sold them to several people within the southern star. The profits of large pharmaceutical companies can be multiplied several times or even dozens of times. If you want to trace them, you will probably have a thankless job. Jia Yan fell silent. If the things have been sold out long ago, maybe people have left North Star and headed for South Star with the supplies. And if he were to go out to pursue him now, he would not say whether he could catch up to him. He would just say that even if he caught up, what excuse would he use to take it back? Moreover, in terms of true value, the value of those medicinal materials may not be worth the energy price paid by Jia Yan to fly out of the North Star. Under various restrictions, Jia Yan also chose to swallow his anger. Forget it, but as you said, they only sold part of it. Although the valuable ones are gone, if I can take back the other parts, it won't be considered a dereliction of duty. That's natural. Now that you have found us, we will be responsible for taking back the remaining things for you. The other party agreed simply and neatly. Jia Yan's eyes flashed and he said calmly, in addition to the supplies, I also want to see the heads of those people. Can you do it? Well, Your Excellency, this is a bit bad. We asked for the things for you, but you still want us to stain your blood. I'm sorry I can't do that. Jia Yan waved his feet and said, forget it, I'll do it myself. You just need to pass their information to me. I will give you a commission in accordance with the rules of the industry afterwards. Oh well. As a member of the famous Sage Flying Thieves gang, Zhu Qi has been living a very comfortable life recently. It was he who suggested the idea of stealing factory drugs. As a result, everyone went from ignoring him at first to flocking to him now. It can be said that he has gained a lot of confidence in a short period of time. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. In the gang, he speaks much louder. Zhu Qi was originally a junior member of the Holy Hands Flying Thieves group. Because of his handy brain, he was appointed to the position of strategist a few days ago, and the first case he handled was the following of the Holy Hands Flying Thieves group, specializing in keep an eye on the medicinal materials business. The medicinal materials in our area are actually one of the few places in the northern superstar that are rich in medicinal materials. Not to mention the northern superstar, it is also famous even among other superstars. Many alien forces will come to us, purchasing medicinal materials, and if we can get a share of the pie, even if our gang only has medicinal materials as its only business in the future, it will be enough for us to support ourselves for our retirement. That's right, you are still very discerning. At the beginning, all of us were opposed to your opinion, but we didn't expect that we were wrong. This profit is too high. The person who sold a few medicinal materials to Nan Yuxing last time actually earned back the salary and profit of the entire operation. Let's decide our future actions like this. From now on, we will only focus on the medicinal materials business. If that doesn't work, we can also go into the medicinal materials business. It's never too late to start cleaning things up. On the edge of the Sea of Fire region, a group of domain lords or galaxy-level beings were discussing together in great harmony. Zhu Qi listened to the discussions among the other strong men around him, and suddenly put down the food in his hands and said calmly, "Don't be too happy too early. Didn't I hear a few days ago that the tail left by one of our operators was raped? Did you find him and follow him? The threat of this strong man is still in front of you, so thinking about the future is too far." Haha, is that the strong man? He was fooled around, it's okay. That's right, I sent a message to the Fire Wolf guy a few days ago. It is said that he also played a trick on that strong man. Now the other party should be furious, but there is no trace of us. No matter how strong it is, it's just ours. Just a plaything. But you still have to be careful with this person. It is said that he is likely to surpass the existence of a senior domain lord. In our industry, we have to make a living with our heads on our belts, but if such a strong person cannot be provoked, it is better not to provoke him. If our things hadn't been sold, I would have just returned them to them, but it's a pity. What's the point? Isn't he just a strong man? Do you really think that he is a lower-level territory lord? There are only so many lower-level territory lords in the world. I have heard of such a person personally. Don't worry. Zuchi listened to the chats of the people around him, and his heart gradually changed from uneasy to feeling at ease. That's right, if that strong man was really that strong, he would have become famous long ago, or he would have used his authority to send countless people here. Since the other party has been working alone, it means that his strength has not reached the lower level of a domain lord. If they don't reach the lower level of territory lord, they have nothing to fear as a bandit force. After all, they also have senior territory lords and the means to deal with the strong. Really? Don't be afraid of me. Just as the boulder in Zukai's heart fell, he suddenly heard an earth-shattering sound outside where he was staying. His expression suddenly changed drastically. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Who? Why is there no movement at all? Is this a sound coming from subspace? Could it be? That person should be here. Don't panic. We are all together. The other person is alone. We don't need to be afraid of him. The surroundings quickly became chaotic, but under the leadership of knowledgeable people, all the strong men quickly gathered around. Zuchi is also among this group of strong men. He is not an obedient person, but he understands that in this case, those who do not stick together will die miserably. Da-da-da. There were crisp sounds of footsteps coming from outside the cave of the hiding place. Then, a slender and powerful foot appeared in everyone's sight. This is followed by the head, body, and tail needle. The full picture of the giant mosquito soon appeared in the eyes of these powerful men. Is there really only one person? No matter how strong you are, if you are alone, do you really think that our holy hand power is a vegetarian? After everyone discovered the other party's details, some people suddenly started showing off their power. What they fear is the official dispatch of a large number of soldiers to arrest them, rather than any lone hero. This coming strong man was obviously a lone hero. He appeared alone. No matter how he felt around him, there was no other aura around him. Their confidence suddenly recovered, and they no longer held together. On the contrary, Zuchi suddenly ran away behind the crowd the moment the opponent appeared. His strength is not as strong as the fighting type. More importantly, he understood that a strong man dared to appear in front of a group of enemies, which showed that the other party was confident. Zuchi positions himself as a wise man, so he thinks more. There are many doubts at the moment, so it would be more correct to avoid trouble as soon as possible. Boom. Sure enough, not long after Zuchi avoided it, he heard that a war broke out inside the cave without any warning. One strong man, fighting against dozens of strong men. Zuchi left even faster. He didn't even know why he was so worried. He clearly had the numerical advantage, but he couldn't feel the slightest possibility of victory. Unexpectedly, this idea turned into a prophecy. Just as the pig galloped through several checkpoints in the Sea of Fire area and entered the entrance to another lush green area, he felt an extremely intimidating aura coming from behind him. At some point, the mosquito-like strongman who broke into their restricted area had already arrived behind him. He didn't attack, just followed him indifferently. It seems that the two parties are really just passers-by who meet occasionally. Zuchi fell silent. The other party was not in a hurry and followed Zuchi calmly without saying a word. Finally, Zuchi couldn't help but said, "Your Excellency, you have dealt with all those strong men. Yes, their strength is not bad, but they don't pose any threat to me." The giant mosquito nodded and said, "Dozens of powerful people above the galaxy level only deserve your words of their strength is okay?" Zuchi felt his heart pounding with fear. This chapter is not finished, click next page to continue reading U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. What kind of strength does this guy have? The name Territory Lord backstage jumped into his mind several times, but he tried his best to clear out this string of words. Territory Lords at the lower level are so rare that in his lifetime, he has only had the chance to see the Territory Lords at the lower level a few times. He does not believe that the Holy Hand Bandit group can attract a person by casually taking action. The backsteps of the dignified Domain Master. Unless the lower level of the Territory Lord has nothing to do, why bother with such trivial matters? My friend, I am actually not of any help to the Holy Hands. I don't know the specific content of what you want to recover, so you are looking for the wrong thing. Even if you kill me, I can't give it to you. Something you want. With a cruel heart, Zuchi said something against his will. It's true that he didn't do anything personally, but he was the one who came up with the whole plan. Otherwise, their Holy Hand theft gang wouldn't have been able to steal many medicinal materials from the factory without anyone noticing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2999. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. You said it doesn't matter, does it mean it doesn't matter? The giant mosquito seemed to be smiling but not smiling, and said something meaningful. Zuchi was speechless for a moment, and finally forced himself to ask calmly, then, sir, what exactly do you want to do? It's very simple. I want you to return the stolen medicinal materials. It's impossible. If it's the remaining part, it's fine, but if it's already sold, we can't get it back. Zuchi had broken the pot, and he believed that since the strong man did not attack him directly, it meant that he was still valuable and would not kill him in one go. Can't you take it back? You can take the ones you haven't sold. You can take me there to receive them. Don't talk nonsense about how low your rank is in the organization. I heard all your previous conversations. Well. Only then did Zuchi know why the other party came to find him. It turned out that he was eavesdropping from the corner. He also does things like eavesdropping on corners. This guy doesn't look like a strong man, he looks like a gangster in their line of work. Okay, senior, let me make the arrangements. However, many of the people you kill are related to that side. They all need to make false appearances. Give me some time. The giant mosquito agreed silently. Jia Yan knew that he was not good at conspiracies. Although he didn't mind playing around, for a time-limited task, it was better to use force to overcome cleverness. No matter what abilities these gangsters have and what connections they have, everything will be a defeat in the face of strength, unless they also invite the lower level of the Territory Lord to come out. After throwing everything to the guy named Zuchi, Jia Yan contacted Leda, who was far away in a prosperous place. A few days passed, while Leda was still arguing with the pharmaceutical factory. Xiao Yuer was obsessed with the prosperity of the city and always wanted to let Leda take her shopping. Jia Yan told them to be careful of those who cause trouble, and not to forget to practice while Xiao Yuer was having fun, so he hung up the communication. Variables are possible in any situation. But for a strong man who is overwhelming everything, the current situation cannot even be discussed as a variable. At most, it will only consume some time. When it comes to harm, it is not relevant at all. What really moved Jia Yan was the kind of variable that could have a huge impact on him. So even though things were getting messy, he was not impatient at all. Jia Yan didn't even have any thoughts of helping to suppress evil in the Byoshu area. On the contrary, he was still practicing and resting in his own way, throwing things to Zuchi without worrying at all that he was making small moves behind his back. This gesture actually made Zuchi suspicious. This strong man should be extremely powerful. He is not afraid of my moves at all, so should I trick him? Zuchi had thought similar thoughts many times in the dark, but every time, he sighed and shook his head, denying his thoughts. A top strong man is so strong that he has the confidence to suppress everything, and he dares to make small moves, which is really a way to die. It's better to try your best, maybe you can find a way to survive. Senior, we have made arrangements. I left them at a cargo port in the west under the pretext of inspecting the goods. We rushed over and intercepted more than half of the medicinal materials. This chapter is not finished, click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Okay, let's go. Without saying a word, Jia Yan jumped up, grabbed the Zuchi in his hand, and after a few ups and downs, got into the subspace. Zuchi could hardly open his eyes now. You must know that the subspace in the North Superstar is something that cannot be touched by those who are not talented in subspace. Maybe the lower level of the Territory Lord can try to enter the subspace. No one under the lower level of the Territory Lord is stupid. Enter subspace. But Zuchi got a taste of subspace. This feeling. Not very comfortable. The endless twists almost swallowed him up. The terrifying pressure that far exceeded the power of the external subspace caused his blood to concentrate in his head. When Jia Yan realized that he couldn't hold on and left the subspace, Zuchi almost lost his breath. Guess. I'll try to protect you from now on. Jia Yan seemed to blame this guy for being so weak. He sighed, and the power of his brain waves enveloped the weakling and continued to take him into the subspace. It was much better this time, but the distortion in the subspace was reminiscent of driving, so Zuchi got motion sick. As a strong man, you have too many weaknesses. You need to practice hard in the future. Zuchi wanted to cry. Senior, I have never met anyone who pulls me into the subspace in my life. No matter how much I practice, I will not be gifted in the subspace. Ignoring his mood, Jia Yan led him through the layers of space. Maybe this was an ambush or a crisis, but from Jia Yan's point of view, it didn't matter to him whether Zuchi had any tricks or not. If this guy does something else, the worst he can do is kill him and find another guy to make suggestions for him. Puff. Senior, are you going to kill him like this? As soon as he arrived at the end of the field, Jia Yan found that there was a heavy guard in the desolate desert. Without saying a word, he went out of the subspace and killed one of the guards with one blow. Zuchi was speechless. If you don't kill him, it may hinder my plan to take back the medicinal materials. Don't you understand what it means to outwit? Unnecessary. After saying this, Jia Yan stood up and ran into the other guards, causing a lot of noise and killing them. 6 feet were flying up and down, and one of them was secretly staring at Zuchi, fearing that this guy would stab him in the back. That would be interesting. But the backstab he expected didn't happen. He was as smart as a pig and would not let himself choose the wrong option. 20 guards were killed. That was a high-level guard of the star. Why did he die so quickly? Not to mention high-level stars, I'm afraid you all know the person who is here. He is the mysterious strong man who has been rampant in the Sea of Fire area recently. Even the galaxy level cannot resist his killing. Humph, you are arrogant. Do you think you are unscrupulous after killing the galaxy class? Just kill him with me. In this desert, the secret warehouse is an important treasure for everyone. It stores a lot of valuables from various forces. Jia Yan entered this place and touched the cheese of countless people. Then the shouts of killing were loud, and after Jia Yan killed more than 20 stellar guards, a large number of strong men came from all directions. Die. Surround him, don't let him go. This chapter is not finished, Click next page to continue reading U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Haha, maybe he is a Domain Lord level master. I haven't killed a Domain Lord level yet. Let me kill him. Domain Lord level? Then you have to be careful. It is said that the existence of Domain Lord level is not afraid of being surrounded and killed by many galaxy levels. If you are not careful, someone will pay the price. The enemy was encircling and annihilating him, but Jia Yan was still there. Many people's intelligence is outdated or inaccurate, and they think that he is just a strong man who killed galaxy-level beings. If they had known that Jia Yan had killed the territory lord in this area, they might not have been so foolhardy. Under the gaze of Zhu Qi, who was heartbroken, this group of galaxy-level experts with a mentality of grabbing credit were wiped out by Jia Yan one by one with 3 blows. This time, a total of 17 or 8 galaxy-level experts were killed. He was speechless. He wanted to say something, but couldn't. No need to look anymore, take me to your warehouse. Yes. Zhu Qi led Jia Yan forward as if accepting his fate. The surroundings became quiet. Rather than saying that everyone had been killed, it was better to say that they were afraid of being killed. More eyes were focused on Jia Yan, most of which were full of fear and inquiry, and among the owners of these eyes were, and even included fluctuations at the Domain Lord level. Jia Yan was really looking forward to the appearance of the Territory Lord level, but he didn't dare. Boom! A warehouse fell to the ground, and along with it, the shattered bodies of 5 or 6 galaxy-level powerhouses were revealed. Jia Yan walked elegantly into the warehouse and looked at the many medicinal materials in front of him. You calculate how many there are here. Jia Yan looked back. Yes. Zhu Qi has accepted his position and started taking detailed inventory. Senior, I am happy to tell you that there are still about 70% of the stolen medicinal materials here. It is probably because they have not found a big buyer yet. As for those special medicinal materials, there is no one left. Zhu Qi reported the intelligence. Jia Yan nodded as expected, his mood unchanged, neither happy nor disappointed. Because I had come to the conclusion before coming here, except for the harvest of more medicinal materials than expected, no other unexpected things happened. Call. Jia Yan waved his foot, and the subspace was distorted, and a large amount of energy leaked out. Under Zhu Kai's horrified gaze, these medicinal materials were sucked into the subspace, leaving nothing behind. He originally wanted to ask if he needed to arrange manpower to transport the medicinal materials to the location designated by Jia Yan. Dao thought that the senior was not only powerful in combat, but also not weak in the development of this auxiliary ability. Don't underestimate the small skill of subspace cargo. Without strong subspace talents and continuous research and development of subspace, it is simply a fool's errand to use the skill in the North Star. It is said that some forces have developed certain related technologies, and then the products are renamed space rings. It is sold everywhere in Biostar. It is extremely powerful and has far-reaching influence. Even if the space ring made by that force is definitely not as powerful as the space skills of the predecessor's cargo, after all, based on the size of the two cargoes, the predecessor will definitely have a huge advantage. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Now. Jia Yan suddenly turned his head and stared at Zhu Qi with cold eyes. Zhu Qi felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar for a moment, and his whole body was extremely frightened. He didn't know how Jia Yan, who had already obtained most of the medicine, would deal with him. Although there was an agreement before, couldn't the agreement be overturned at any time? You're free. But when Jia Yan's eyes relaxed and he said the above words, Zhu Kai's whole body relaxed, as if he had fought a fierce battle. Jia Yan packed up all the medicinal materials and was thinking about when to go to the factory. he would hand over the things to the other party first to see if he could make them accommodating, when Zuchi behind him heard a voice of inquiry. Senior, I want to work under you. I wonder if you lack helpers around you. Even a slave will do. This brain worker can be regarded as knowledgeable. Jia Yan's attitude is not his nature at first glance, but because he is too strong and has nothing to fear in this area, so he becomes like this. It must be very arrogant to work under such a powerful person. Zuchi embraced this little idea and spoke anxiously. Sorry, I won't accept anyone now. Jia Yan shook his head. Zuchi sighed. Jia Yan nodded and went directly into the subspace. Although the cooperation was pleasant and the other party was very obedient, to Jia Yan, Zuchi seemed to overlap with Lada's functions in many places. Instead of accepting it and making Lada unhappy, it would be better to reject it simply. He doesn't lack these two subordinates either. What's more, he will leave the North Superstar soon and go to the South Superstar, which is more mysterious and may provide more opportunities. It didn't take long. This is all I helped you get back. In addition, a large part was bought by people from Nanjing Star. If you want to take back that part, I can only do nothing to help you. It is too time-consuming. When Jia Yan carried a cart full of medicinal materials out of the subspace and dropped it in front of the pharmaceutical factory workshop, the major leadership teams in the factory, as well as Miss Chongzi and other people who followed him, were completely stunned. God can see mercy. They asked Jia Yan to retrieve the goods, but they refused more out of politeness. They didn't expect this guy to actually get so many medicinal materials back. You know, many of them are too late for them to produce even if they urgently adjust the goods. It can be said that it really solved the urgent need. Looking for books. No need to apologize, my lord, your help has really brought our factory back to life. To be honest, our previous attitude was because we really had no time to take care of other aspects. Our stall is huge, but the danger to our survival is also if you hadn't found the goods this time, maybe such a big factory would have closed down due to compensation for breach of trust. You saved me and countless workers in the factory. Several senior executives gathered around. They don't understand Jia Yan's strength, and they don't need to. The fact that the goods were brought back safe and sound is enough to explain everything. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. After all, it is not so easy for a strong person without strength to bring back these things. No need to say polite words. My master needs it. Are you ready? Leda is indeed a qualified mouthpiece. If it is inconvenient for Jia Yan to say it, he will say it for Jia Yan. Of course it's done, and the genetic map you want to analyze has been prepared for a long time. If you are in a hurry, we can ask the laboratory to free up a day to prepare the things for you first. Then make it free. We are really in a hurry. Okay, tomorrow, let the lab start tomorrow. Watching the factory leaders arrange Jia Yan's needs, Jia Yan here took a long breath. It would be wrong to say that there is no pressure at all. At least he still feels a little pressure. He is afraid that the factory will refuse to eat hot and cold food, and he will have to open his mouth to get the things back. Fortunately it didn't happen that way. Otherwise, Jia Yan would stage a scene of destroying the factory. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3000. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. It was so scary, but luckily the people at the factory had no problem. Jia Yan, who was still gearing up in his heart, seemed to have a little bit of regret. He wouldn't admit it, but the factory's practices still made him a little unhappy. But if people realize their mistakes and can correct them, and start paying attention to their own side again, there is no such thing as a good thing, so just let it go. The days of waiting were still very relaxing. Jia Yan deliberately took time out to accompany his little apprentice Yuer, taking her to play several amusement rides and shopping around. Xiao Yuer's training progress has not slowed down. It has to be said that her compatibility with Yin and Yang Dao and her talent in subspace are the best Jia Yan has seen so far. In other words, she is Jia Yan's best apprentice, but it cannot be said that Jia Yan took advantage of Xiao Yuer being taught by Jia Yan. On the contrary, it was Jia Yan, the Bo Le, who fell in love with Xiao Yu because of her talent. Asking other strong people to teach is tantamount to a waste of natural resources. Have you reached the heaven level? Xiao Yuer, I'll give you a task. That is to rush to the starry sky level within half a year. Can you do it? Little fish can do it. The little one probably doesn't even know what the starry sky level is. Anyway, she will try her best to complete the tasks assigned by Jia Yan. A living being above a superstar, even at such a young age, understands the meaning of hard work. Jia Yan was temporarily relaxed, but there was a sense of panic in the surrounding area. There is a rumor that has been circulating around the prosperous area recently. A powerful person suspected to be a late-level domain lord has been acting in this area. The origin of this rumor is unknown, but the most important term in it, territory lord's late-level power, these words are enough to make the scalps of many high-level forces go numb. Within the superstar, you are the territory lord, and you don't even have the right to speak loudly, because the territory lords are everywhere. You are a senior domain lord. You may become the overlord of a party or hold a very high official position. Your status is already very high. And if you are a lower level domain lord, then you are a proper powerful person, and your status is no longer a matter of high status, but that no one will try to compete with you for status, because the powerful people of the lower level of domain lords will kill you with one blow, no matter how high your status is. Also confused. Senior territory lords and lower level territory lords may seem to be only a small step apart, but in reality they are above the North Star. They are completely different. But now that there is news that such an active late-level power is acting, countless forces, large and small, are nervous and restless. That low-level powerful man must be an outsider. Although a strong dragon cannot overwhelm local snakes, is this dragon a supergiant dragon that can swallow up the world? The tranquility of many forces has inexplicably affected the security of the surrounding areas. No major cases have occurred for several days. The police department in the prosperous land is almost weird. Fortunately, after they obtain the intelligence, they learn that there is a powerful person. Rumors of the suspected arrival are spreading wildly. Although they are not so convinced by the words of the powerful late-level domain lords coming to this area, they are also happy to see these rumors spread. At least make the police department work less stressful. In this regard, many people in the police department still hope that the mysterious powerful can stay here for a long time. However, their extravagant hopes are destined to come to nothing. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. On the third day after Jia Yan returned to the factory from the Land of Fire, the research laboratory at the factory rushed slowly and finally delivered the goods. This is the genotype life-prolonging medicine you want, sir. One of them is used by that person who has a near-perfect gene. However, the effect of using it, we cannot guarantee. At most, it can be used as a reference for you. Thank you very much. Jia Yan restrained himself from the box of genetically modified liquid medicine handed to him from the other side, and waved his hand to let the box enter the subspace. Happy cooperation, my lord. If you live in Biostar for a long time in the future, can you consider signing a security contract with our pharmaceutical company? I guarantee that you will be satisfied with the conditions. Haha, forgive me for not having this idea for the time being. If I want to do it in the future, I will come to you. Declining the invitation, Jia Yan led Leda Xiao out of the factory. It seems that the trip to Biostar is almost over. According to my intelligence network, only here and the great God's house have the ability to research genetic medicine. There must be more or even stronger medical forces in other places, but I am not familiar with it. So they won't put themselves at risk. God knows whether what they researched is useful or harmful. Jia Yan's heart was filled with lightning, and he was thinking about it. Xiao Yuer, Leda, are you ready? We will set off tomorrow and rush to the starry sky. The next stop, the southern superstar. Lord Jia Yan, I can leave anytime and anywhere. Yeah, go to the starry sky. Go to the starry sky, go to the southern superstar, go to the southern superstar. Ba, ba, ba. The little fish was overjoyed and spit out long colorful bubbles. The next day, without many people feeling it, these three figures slowly rose into the sky, quietly breaking through the North Star's ascension barrier until they penetrated the North Star's atmosphere, and their bodies expanded back to normal size. Wow! Master, you are so big. Wow, Leda, you are so big. The little fish is still so small, ba ba ba, unhappy, ba ba ba. Xiao was in the starry sky, looking at the huge thing that covered the sky and the sun around him, and his heart was extremely shocked. This was the first time in her life that she had walked out of the North Star, and it was also the first time she had seen an outside creature. Even this creature came up directly to the ceiling, a huge giant mosquito 50 kilometers wide. She is still small, probably about the size of a normal human child, and may not weigh as much as a child. Master, you are finally out. Adisha has been waiting so hard. Not long after, to Xiao Yuer's surprise, the interior of the subspace was overturned, and a huge palace reaching the level of a planet emerged from the water. What a huge palace! Jia Yan took the lead and flew into the palace, followed by Leda and Xiao Yuer. Entering the palace, she could see the hugeness that could not be seen for thousands of kilometers, which made her speechless for a long time, but Edisha would not give her a chance to disappear. Are you the little fish that the master said? Your talent is very good, the master often talks about it. Editha flew out of nowhere and arrived in front of the pink fish in a blink of an eye. The big one and the small one looked at each other. For some reason, Jia Yan looked very fond of them. I'm Xiao, hello sister. She called me sister, Edisha looked happy. This chapter is not finished, click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Jia Yan ignored them. Anyway, the age and even the seniority among these girls were a bit confusing. They could call them whatever they liked. Edisha, adjust your direction and head towards the southern star. After waiting for both parties to get to know each other, Jia Yan issued the order. Yes. Under Edis's fine-tuning, the palace dived into the deep space, then aimed towards the south and sped away. Not long after they left, there were many sounds in this space. Phew, finally gone. Someone emerged from the starry sky, and a group of strong men emerged from a place where it was difficult to feel the movement even though they were clearly breathing. I'm scared to death. That momentum is too terrifying. Could it be the rumored late-level power of the Territory Lord? There were also some people who had seen it, looking at each other in shock. Hey, there were people who wanted to build that palace before. Let me just say it. How can such a treasure not have a strong owner? If I believed you, our team would have died several times. That's right. However, the information about this person's existence must be properly entered into our database. This will prevent us from encountering him again next time. We don't know its origins. A large number of powerful creatures dispersed in all directions. Some of them have ulterior motives, some are just passing by, and some are just watching the fun. Adisha, it seems that you have been through a lot these days. Jia Yan was in the palace, feeling the area that was quickly moving away, and said with a meaningful smile. That's not true. Edessa is so powerful. She has been able to deal with so many forces so that they don't dare to openly attack us. There are also intrigues, cliques and other skills in the process. Edessa even admires herself. Awesome. Jia Yan sincerely praised Edessa. Edessa would hardly lie to herself. She said words such as intrigue, which showed that it was indeed very labor-intensive at that time. Jia Yan could even imagine the scene, the little girl scratching her hair and thinking hard. But now that he's back, he doesn't have to worry about such small scenes. Buzz. Jia Yan used brainwave power to cut out several areas in the huge palace, and wall-like things appeared between these areas to show that they could be used as rooms. Now that there are more people, the palace can no longer continue to be used so extravagantly. Although the empty space is quite majestic and beautiful, if you look at it unchanged for a long time, you will get tired of it. From now on, everyone will have their own space for practice, living, and entertainment. Don't grab it. They can be replaced and moved at any time. If you want to live in a side hall, you can also tell me. Okay. I see. Master, I want to live with the master. Ignoring Xiao Yuer's pleas, Jia Yan still left her in the care of Edessa. These two little ones, one happened to be a smart brain person, and the other had a milky voice. They complemented each other perfectly, and Edessa could really teach Xiao Yuer how to practice. After all, she was at the peak of the Venerable's strength. In this way, the huge palace that cuts through the waves continues to move inside the subspace. It seems that the closer to the black hole area, the less traces of influence there are. This area, said to be the center of the entire galaxy, has turned into a desert of life. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. When the subspace was about to reach the black hole in the center of the entire galaxy, Jia Yan felt blessed in his heart and said on a whim, Edessa, don't go through it from the background of the subspace, go around it. Oh. Edessa curled her lips, not sure what Jia Yan's performance was, but she was good and obedient. It's just a detour, it's nothing to waste half a day and a whole day. And just after Jia Yan ordered the palace to take a detour, the situation inside the 10-dimensional space also appeared strange when it reached the location of the black hole, which shocked Jia Yan. It turns out that the interior of the 10-dimensional subspace is being ravaged by an earth-shattering energy. No matter how hard the 10-dimensional subspace tries to repair the shattering of the subspace caused by the energy, it still cannot completely stop the erosion of this force. Therefore, in this area, entire areas the size of several solar systems were completely swallowed up by the forces coming from the outside world. The subspace could not do anything to the other side, and the other side could not do anything to the subspace. As expected, if we directly travel through the black hole background subspace, we will be in trouble. The black hole at the center of the Milky Way lives up to its name. Jia Yan even wondered whether the power of these black holes was the ultimate power. Anyway, if he fell in now, even millions of him would not be able to come out alive. Of course, Jia Yan would not give the black hole such a chance. Thankfully I got around it. My master brother is so awesome. Haha, no prizes, it's just a whim. Master is so awesome. Bypass the black hole area. There was a smooth road in front of him again. For the first time in his life, Jia Yan crossed the middle line of the Milky Way and came to the world on the other side. It didn't look any different. And the true face of Nanjuxing soon became clear in everyone's eyes. At least the periscope used in the palace to expose the outside world can still be seen. After all, it is so huge, not inferior to the central black hole next to it, and even much larger. Of course the quality cannot be compared. But it is really big. It's another giant star with a diameter of 1 light-year. How did those powerful seniors create them? I'm afraid this is another mystery left over from history. Jia Yan felt the scene outside and couldn't help but sigh. The southern giant is located to the south of the black hole area and is at an angle with the other three giant stars. In the middle is the central black hole of the Milky Way. The overall plan is neat and uniform, and each giant star has its own characteristics. On the southern superstar, in addition to the huge flowers, plants, and trees, and the wide range of life races, there is also a very typical feature, which is also a new feature that was only discovered nearly a million years ago: pharmaceuticals. Whether it is medicine or disease treatment, Nanjuja can be said to be unparalleled. Among these giants, it is unique. It is probably due to its good ecological environment and inexhaustible supply. Related to exhausted resources. In short, Jia Yan's trip to North Superstar was to find his disciples, but it was the trip to South Superstar that really had high expectations. Actually, my strength is stagnant in the digestion stage. It's not like there are no ways for Southern Superstar to promote this period. If there is an opportunity, let's look for it, so that my strength can continue to increase. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. Among the several major stars, its unique existence is probably related to its good ecological environment and inexhaustible resources. In short, Jia Yan's trip to North Superstar was to find his disciples, but it was the trip to South Superstar that really had high expectations. Actually, my strength is stagnant in the digestion stage. It's not like there are no ways for Southern Superstar to promote this period. If there is an opportunity, let's look for it, so that my strength can continue to increase. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3001. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Creatures with long lives will end up living worse than death. What is the most important reason? It's that they care about less and less, until no bonds exist anymore, and they become walking zombies. Jia Yan doesn't want that, so he is trying his best to protect things related to himself. Including family, including friends, including stories of experiences, including power, including memories, etc. Even though he knew that doing so might be in vain in the end, he didn't want to lose it all too soon. Maybe this is the struggle of the strong. Wow, what a beautiful planet. Just as Jia Yan was thinking about it, the southern giant star in the distance was getting closer and closer, so close that it almost occupied the entire sky. In fact, they are still far apart. Who made the four major superstars become so big? Hearing this, Jia Yan also looked at Nan Yuxing and couldn't help but feel moved. The beauty of the northern superstar is that it is like an enlarged version of the Earth. The planet has land, oceans, white clouds, and all kinds of landscapes. But southern superstar is different. He is like a big green ball with an average size, completely covered in green. There are no mountains or oceans at all, only green heaven and earth, and because the terrain does not have so many ups and downs, from a distance, it looks as round as if drawn by a compass. If scaled down, it would probably be smaller than the one on Earth. Any table tennis ball should be more rounded. All these green colors are caused by forests, which shows how amazing the life is in this southern giant. Southern superstar is famous because, in addition to medicinal materials, it also contains a large number of life forms. I am afraid that the other three superstars combined may not necessarily have more life forms than Southern Superstar. This shows its strong ability to breed life. Those seas of trees are the most basic and essential things that nurture life. Adisha, come with me this time. Xiao, you can go too. I'm going to help you find some medicinal materials for a solid foundation in Narnia Star. Okay. Master is the best, Baba Baba. The two little ones were overjoyed, and Leda was not unhappy at all. Compared with the children, he was not so fresh. Instead, he wanted to take a good rest. He had not gained nothing on the North Star, so he took the opportunity to digest it. Rita, if there is any situation, use the autonomous fighting tools in the palace. In addition, I have also given you magic weapons. You can use them. I believe you know what I mean. Yes, Leda will definitely protect your palace, even if he gives up his life. Jia Yan waved his foot, non-committal. His original intention in asking Leda was to make him work hard for him. Most of the opportunities Leda got in Biostar were due to Jia Yan's power and prestige. If he was asked to guard a palace, he wouldn't even do it. There's no point in sacrificing your life. Besides, it's almost impossible to go to the extent of risking one's life just to see a palace. It's almost time, Edisha, Xiao, let's go out. Yes. Jia Yan used the power of brain waves to take the two little guys out of the palace, break into the 10-dimensional space, and slowly fly to the outside world. Edisha is so excited, she is going to play at Superstar. Sister Edisha, we are not going to play, we are going to do errands. This chapter is not finished, click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Yeah, we're just going to do errands and have some fun. Ha ha ha, bot, 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 bot. The two little brats were talking to each other, and Jia Yan couldn't help but be at a loss for what to do. It's good now. What he was worried about finally happened. Xiao is a hard-working child. He has only been in contact with Edisha for only a few days, but he has gradually become a little bit crooked. What the hell is this? But as long as it's not too outrageous and Jia Yan isn't prepared to take care of it, who doesn't have a childhood? As long as the cultivation progress is not slowed down too much, it will be fine. Enter normal space. In an instant, countless eyes glanced around. In this southern superstar, there are extremely many powerful people coming and going. Whether they are strong people going out to the southern superstar or venturing to the southern superstar, there are many of them in almost any starry sky. When these beings glanced at Jia Yan's majestic body like a giant mountain, they suddenly fell silent. The difference between being among the superstars is that in the starry sky, you can almost guess the strength of the other person simply by looking at his figure. And the giant mosquito with a body that is more than 50 kilometers long. At least go up to the middle level of galaxy. Maybe even a domain master or even a senior domain master. It's best not to mess with this kind of being anyway. There were even some creatures among them who were about to dive headfirst, but after thinking about it, they changed places because they didn't want to enter the southern superstar, and they quickly encountered this existence. You must know that after entering the southern superstar, just like the northern superstar, you cannot feel the opponent's momentum at all, and it is difficult to judge its strength through its size. You will be killed by this one accidentally. Are you ready? It is done. The two little ones nodded vigorously. As early as in the starry sky, Jia Yan asked them to prepare for physical load resistance. Otherwise, with their strength, it would be very dangerous to enter the southern superstar. Fortunately, Xiao is a native creature in the northern superstar, and Edisha has already entered the semi-stellar primary stage. As long as the two of them are fully prepared to resist the damage caused by the southern superstar when it enters the star, it will not be a big problem. Puff. After saying that, Jia Yan began to feel the astonishing pressure of the southern superstar at a distance of 10 million kilometers from the surface of the southern superstar. However, he calmly continued to lead the two little naughty people down. It's the third time, and he's still afraid of a ghost. Although it is a new superstar, it is impossible to be afraid. Everything is just like the North Star. I am afraid that the existence of the superstar itself is the same person, and the aura is exactly the same. This also makes Jia Yan couldn't help but admire the other party. Same as last time, he felt that if he resisted forcefully, the pressure from the superstar would no longer be able to reduce him, but in order to do as the Romans do, he just went along with it. The two little brats were not so relaxed. Their strength was just enough to enter the superstardom. They screamed and screamed all the way. Even Aditha, the child reincarnated from the brain, cried that she didn't want to go to the south. The superstar has played and wants to go back. Fortunately, they didn't have to be compressed in the first place. It was just that during the whole process, some of the energy in their bodies was replaced by the unique power of rules of the southern superstar. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Half an hour later, under Jia Yan's careful protection, they finally entered a green jungle. The figure that was about to fall was lifted up by Jia Yan's energy, and the three of them flew up together. How about it, can you still hold on? Wow, it's so scary, Adisha, I don't want to experience it again next time. After all, Adisha was much stronger, and she was fine after just being dizzy for a moment. You will get used to it next time. This is your first time and you have no experience, Jia Yan reassured her and looked at Xiao again. This child has reached heaven-level strength, but this strength is still too weak. Jia Yan still considers that she is an indigenous creature in the superstar, otherwise he would never dare to bring her to try. Ah, the little fish is about to die. Ba dash. She suddenly spit out a long string of bubbles, and her pink fish body became much pale as she cried. It's okay. You won't feel so uncomfortable when you get stronger in the future. Adisha was still a sensible big sister, and she went over to hug the pink fish and pat it to comfort her. Okay, let's go over there and take a rest. Jia Yan pointed to a giant tree with a canopy that could accommodate people riding on it. The three of them flew to the top of the tree as instructed. After sitting down, they felt surprised and very soft. Speaking of which, Master Brother, you have become so small. Adisha then ran around Jia Yan. Jia Yan keenly realized that this little girl couldn't fly. That's right, her strength is only half-star level, and it's not combat type. She may be able to fly a short distance, but it's probably impossible for her to fly normally above a giant star. Even ordinary domain masters find it difficult to fly normally. Xiao Yuer, on the other hand, has a very strange physique, maybe it's a racial talent. She is born with the ability to fly on the superstar, just like she was on the North Superstar, but she can't fly high. Aditha was lively and active. She would look here and there on the canopy of the tree, and look into the distance again, and she would exclaim that she had discovered some bugs or something like that. Adisha, memorize this area. I want you to analyze and see how far the address on the map in my hand is from the current location. Jia Yan didn't just jump down casually. If you pick any spot in the starry sky, your legs will be broken. He had already obtained a lot of map coordinates of the southern superstar in the northern superstar and the starry sky, and understood his own path, and then he came down. It's just that the sea of trees is said to move. Now it's unknown whether the location he marked is still in the same place. I'll mark it. Aditha's mind is still quite amazing. Even if it is not as terrifying as the intelligence brain, her memory and analysis ability are still as good as those of ordinary computers. While Aditha was busy, Xiao gradually regained his strength. He and Aditha looked here and there together on the tree crown, giggling from time to time. I don't know why the little girls have so many things to be happy about. They can even be happy for a while if they find more bug patterns. The creatures above this giant star may be poisonous, so you should be careful. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. Okay. The two of them responded in unison. Jia Yan has a headache and feels that there will be two Edishas in the future. But Xiao is not Edisha after all. She is also a studious and diligent disciple, and her strength has recently reached a breakthrough. She has reached the middle level of heaven, and she is not too far away from completing the mission given to her by Jia Yan. Call out. Just as Jia Yan and Edisha were communicating and resting on top of the tree canopy, a large number of creatures flew across the sky. The mountains and forests were shocked. Jia Yan was a little surprised. When they arrived just now, this forest was quiet. He didn't expect that the flying creatures in the sky would startle so many people after they passed by. It's right to think about it. This is a forest. The tree where the crown of the tree is located is at least 1,000 meters high. And the trees similar to it around are dazzling and countless. With such vegetation serving as food, there must be so many lives. It's no exaggeration to say stars. In addition, Jia Yan discovered that many life forms still have the function of flight. Probably because the trees are so tall, it is difficult for them to adapt to the environment without flying. Even if they can't fly, they can definitely fly over cliffs and walls in the woods, and those that crawl on the ground are rare animals. The strength is quite strong. Among the group that flew over just now, many have reached the starry sky level. These are just animals. What if they are strong? Jia Yan nodded secretly. It seemed that the trip to Nanjing Star would not be too boring. As for worries, there are none. After his trip to the North Star and flying in the starry sky for so long, his strength has made great progress after the breakthrough. Compared with him who just broke through to the lower level of the Territory Lord, he is at least 1 to 2% stronger. Is the time when you are most conceited. Moreover, no matter how many species there are in the southern superstar, and the strong ones are outnumbered, the lower level of Territory Lord will still be the most top-notch existence. Its number is double or even 5 times that of the northern superstar, and its distribution is definitely not large. You know, Jia Yan has been traveling in Biostar for so long and traveled through so many areas. In the end, he still hasn't encountered any lower-level territory lords. He doesn't even have a chance to test whether he is good at the lower-level territory lords. Even if Nan Yuxing is stronger, how strong can it be? Gah! Suddenly, among the races flying in the sky, one reached the venerable level and discovered 3 figures looking up at them from the tree crown. Quack, quack, quack. The creature was so excited that it rushed around to express that it was its prey and told others not to interfere. It slammed into the 3 people below. Edisha, come on. Jia Yan did not take action, but asked Edisha with interest. Find the bookstore. The opponent is only at the venerable level, while Edisha is at the semi-star level. Although she is just a beginner, she is still stronger than the venerable level. He wanted to see if Edisha, a gentle type strongman with little combat experience, could defeat a creature on a giant star under the pressure of hierarchy. Okay, look at Edisha. Edisha was high-spirited, with energy flashing on her little fists. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. It wasn't that she couldn't fly, but she could only fly for a short time, so she didn't take off and just waited on the canopy. Sister Edita, come on. Ba, ba, ba Xiao Yuer spit out a string of colorful bubbles next to her to cheer her up. The huge group of flying creatures in the sky also stopped flying in unison, and just watched as this venerable level flying creature crashed directly in front of Edisha. Call out. Boom. The small fist and the opponent's claws were fighting together, but the level of suppression still had an effect. The opponent actually lost the strength competition, and his whole body was knocked backwards by the fist. Gah! This flying creature actually became more excited, and seemed to be warning the surroundings not to take action. In a moment, it swept towards Edisha for the second time, and used its claws to fight with Edisha. Alas, this little guy is indeed a bit weak. Jia Yan watched for a while and found that Edisha only knew how to use basic moves. Although she wanted to use the change moves, she couldn't use them. From this point of view, she was not a qualified strong person, and she couldn't even fight. Not even an expert. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3002. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Sister Edisha, it's useless to be so embarrassed. Xiao Yuer's push behind the scenes obviously made Edisha, who had a sense of shame, waver in her plans. However, her wavering is not a bad thing. At least her desire to win in the battle has become stronger. Beat you to death. Edisha seriously remembered the fighting skills that Jia Yan taught her. The opponent happened to be the same size as her, and she no longer felt like a child facing a mountain. She was able to use her fists and feet together to display exquisite moves. After the strange arc-shaped palm technique, she followed up with a kick. It can be said that the little girl's control of power is very clear. Even Jia Yan admires her for this. But it should be some kind of calculation, not some combat talent. At least in terms of the choice of moves and the agility when changing skills, Edisha is far behind. Despite this, after gradually regaining the same feeling as when teaching, Edisha slowly regained her disadvantage. Gah! The flying monster that was suddenly forced back by Edisha roared towards the sky, and other helpers immediately came to help. It turns out that he is still a guy who has no martial ethics. Jia Yan thought that the opponent would have some martial ethics and would fight one-on-one. If he couldn't beat him, he would still call for reinforcements. But they called for reinforcements, but we also have reinforcements here. Jia Yan's pair of compound eyes contained a strange sparkle, which foreshadowed that as he entered the southern superstar, the first massacre was about to begin. Brother Master, don't do anything yet, let me try. Unexpectedly, Edisha reluctantly stopped Jia Yan's attack, and her two small slaps overlapped each other. Magical energy emerged from the palm of his hand, making Jia Yan curious. This kind of power. It's a bit like my yin-yang dao, but compared with yin-yang dao, it lacks a lot of things, but the flavor of positive and negative power is still so strong. Edisha was concentrating on this move, and kept mumbling in her little mouth, 23, 23, 44, 222, 25, 45. A large number of seemingly meaningless numbers came out of her mouth, and the power in her palms also changed. Jia Yan chewed it for a while and finally discovered something strange. It turns out that Edisha was simulating her own data when using Onmyado tactics. Yes, she also knows clearly that her fighting talent is not very good, or should be said that she will be extremely weak when faced with unexpected situations that require her to make quick judgments, or when she is hurt mentally. It is limited by its own life characteristics. However, when it comes to data and calculation, Edisha dares to compete for the top 100 or even the top 10 in the galaxy. This is her excellence and pride. So, is there any way to make her advantages compensate for her disadvantages? What Edisha is doing now is the answer. Buzz buzz. A large number of flying creatures fell. Although Jia Yan wanted to see what Edisha was up to, the energy in his body was also aroused and he was ready to go. When he was about to take action, Edisha took the first step and released the positive and negative light ball in her palm into the air. It is quite difficult to escape the energy body inside a giant star, but little Edisha, who is only half a star, managed it. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. Although when she threw the ball of light, she was about to fall limply, and was quickly caught by Xiao Yuer's quick eyes and hands. The light group rushed towards many flying monsters without causing much harm. They simply didn't believe how harmful such a light ball was. Some ignored it, while others used weapons or claws to destroy it. However, at the first moment of contact, boom! Shock waves that caused the surrounding trees to sway crazily rose into the sky out of nowhere. Under the shock wave, Jia Yan silently released his brainwave power to protect the tree crown. You don't even think about releasing your own safety? Who would almost blow yourself up? Editha was embarrassed to sit with Xiao and listen to the lecture, but she was actually being criticized. Jia Yan was right to criticize. Just now, Edisha used all her strength to create a terrifying energy light ball similar to Jia Yan's positive and negative power. After detonating the sky, although it also killed and injured a large number of flying the biological army and caused their great escape, but at the same time, if Jia Yan was not present, Edisha herself and Xiao Yuer would also be affected by the explosion and die. But this move of yours is still quite powerful. You can practice more in the future. I will also teach you how to control the direction of the explosion and reduce your own rebound force. Okay, Master Brother is the best. Editha burst into tears and laughed. Bah, 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 the little fish has to learn too. Then I'll teach you. You can learn whatever you want. That's great. The fighting in this area is just a drop in the ocean for the entire South Star. Even if he looked around, similar battle fluctuations seemed to be heard from time to time. This reminded Jia Yan of the rumors about the many creatures on the southern superstar. In fact, he was thinking at the time that so many life forms were really strong, and if they are all fertile, even if the southern giant star is as vast as the sea, there will always be a day when it will be filled, or in other words, it should have been filled long ago. However, the battle in front of him reminded him of something. That is, nature has its own laws of balance. Once there are too many organisms, there will always be a catastrophe or something else that will eliminate or greatly reduce the number of species that disrupt the balance. Those powerful creatures fight with each other frequently. I'm afraid this also reduces the number of creatures and leads the truly strong to higher heights. Jia Yan understood it in his heart and had a little more admiration for the ethereal existence of the designed superstar. Friends, passing by, fighting, or seeking revenge. Another thing that surprised Jia Yan was that not long after he flew out, a sound wave that only Jia Yan could hear washed into his giant mosquito hearing organ in waves. It's really like the sound transmission method from thousands of miles away, and it's many times better than the brainwave power sound transmission method mastered by Jia Yan. The lower level of the Domain Lord. The Territory Lord's back step, which he had not seen for a long time after searching for him in the North Star, was actually seen in the South Star just after his whereabouts. Is this the difference between the two sides? Jia Yan would rather believe that he is lucky. I'm passing by, but I'm still very interested in you. How about we meet if we have the chance? This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. Jia Yan said to the other party calmly. Unexpectedly, the guy on the other side said, if you don't want to fight or seek revenge, don't see me. If you come to fight, see me, seek revenge, and kill. The other party's response was simple and clear. Jia Yan was very interested and wanted to respond to the other party and come to the door following this breath style, but when he saw the two little brats beside him, he gave up these judgments. You can find someone to fight at any time and anywhere. You have children by your side, So leaving your children to fight is not like what your elders would do. That's all, I'll discuss it with you when I get the chance. Jia Yan snorted coldly and restrained his breath. The other party was silent for a moment, and his momentum gradually weakened. Jia Yan also traced the traces and roughly judged the other party's location. The distance is about 1,000 kilometers. For the powerful people of the late Domain Lord level, this distance is not very far. Even in the southern giant star, maybe they can collide with each other in a few breaths. However, Jia Yan only remembered the other party's aura and had no intention of causing trouble for him immediately. He is not a martial arts madman who finds the other party to fight for no reason. It's just that guy, a bit like him. In other words, it should be said that many life forms in this southern giant, whether intelligent or not, seem to have a bit of cruelty. Jia Yan led the kids forward, and was attacked by Domain Lord level creatures along the way. After getting away, Jia Yan finally saw something that looked like a town. Wow, what a big tree! It's really big. The trees next to it look like grass. It's too big, it's awesome. The little girls were talking a lot, pointing at the giant tree that Jia Yan had discovered and chattering. Jia Yan put them behind him and rode on the flying boat. This was a privilege that only such children had. Trees are nothing. We are going to the city on the trees. Did you see it? Go there and ask for directions, and see if you need to buy anything or replenish supplies. Jia Yan smiled and continued to lead the two of them on the green. Some of the life forms seen on the way pointed at them, and even said that Jia Yan was the slave guard of the two little girls, but Jia Yan ignored them all. The closer you get to the giant tree, the more you can feel its size and the increasingly prosperous scene around it. This giant tree has a diameter of about 100 kilometers. The tree has lush branches and leaves. Although it is only 600 or 700 kilometers high, it still looks like it is holding up the sky. There are structures built on the crown of the tree everywhere. The houses, roads, and even many infrastructures can be said to be a city formed by trees. Stop comers, do you have the credentials to enter this giant tree city? Just as Jia Yan was approaching the land of the giant tree city, creatures in standard clothing flying around the giant tree city flew over. Voucher? Sorry, I come from beyond the stars and don't understand the customs here. Can I get a voucher? You come from beyond the starry sky? That's right. It feels like your aura is different. It turns out it comes from outside. The flying creature looked at Jia Yan and the others up and down. He was a little unsure and said, "Wait a minute, I'll report to the higher UPS and see what they decide." This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Good work. Jia Yan and the others were waiting outside the city. They could only feel that the branches and leaves above their heads were covered with branches and leaves, and the sunlight was shining brightly. They could also see a cloud-like forest above their heads, with city pedestrians walking on the streets. The way they come and go in a hurry is very fantasy. It's fun, let's go climb these places later. Little fish also want to climb trees. You too deserve it if you fall down if you are naughty again. The two little kids suddenly didn't dare to talk nonsense. In fact, none of them can fall to death. Edisha's strength is barely enough for her to fly in the superstar, while Xiao is born to be a good player who can fly in the superstar. Just being threatened by Jia Yan, they naturally knew that they had said the wrong thing. In the city of giant trees, people who say they want to climb trees are just trying to destroy their urban environment. Such unqualified children are very annoying. Sir, I have already asked. There have been similar cases before. You have to leave some energy marks before you can log in. Oh? Energy mark? Then log into one. Jia Yan was stunned, not knowing what energy mark he wanted. It was said to be a landing, but it was very simple. Jia Yan and the other three were led to a huge space at the bottom of the giant tree. It seemed like a wormhole in the tree, but it was extremely majestic inside, with dignitaries coming and going. Jia Yan and the others only need to input part of their power into a piece of equipment in the office on the first floor to complete the login work. You can show this voucher for many of your activities in our Southern Star in the future. However, this does not mean that you are protected by our giant tree city. On the contrary, if you commit crimes, our giant tree city will pursue you. I'll kill you until you die. It's really big. The trees next to it look like grass. It's too big, it's awesome. The little girls were talking a lot, pointing at the giant tree that Jia Yan had discovered and chattering. Jia Yan put them behind him and rode on the flying boat. This was a privilege that only such children had. Trees are nothing. We are going to the city on the trees. Did you see it? Go there and ask for directions, and see if you need to buy anything or replenish supplies. Jia Yan smiled and continued to lead the two of them on the green. Some of the life forms seen on the way pointed at them, and even said that Jia Yan was the slave guard of the two little girls, but Jia Yan ignored them all. The closer you get to the giant tree, the more you can feel its size and the increasingly prosperous scene around it. This giant tree is about 100 kilometers in diameter, with lush branches and leaves. Although the height is only 600 or 700 kilometers, it still looks like it is holding the sky. There are houses, roads, and even many infrastructures built on the canopy all over the tree. It can be said that it is a tree made of trees. City formed. Stop comers, do you have the credentials to enter this giant tree city? Just as Jia Yan was approaching the land of the giant tree city, creatures in standard clothing flying around the giant tree city flew over. Voucher? Sorry, I come from beyond the stars and don't understand the customs here. Can I get a voucher? You come from beyond the starry sky? That's right. It feels like your aura is different. It turns out it comes from outside. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. The flying creature looked at Jia Yan and the others up and down. He was a little unsure and said, "Wait a minute, I'll go report to the higher UPS and see what they decide." Good work. Jia Yan and the others were waiting outside the city. They could only feel that the branches and leaves above their heads were covered with branches and leaves, and the sunlight was shining brightly. They could also see a cloud-like forest above their heads, with city pedestrians walking on the streets. The way they come and go in a hurry is very fantasy. It's fun, let's go climb these places later. Little fish also want to climb trees. You too deserve it if you fall down if you are naughty again. The two little kids suddenly didn't dare to talk nonsense. In fact, none of them can fall to death. Edisha's strength is barely enough for her to fly in the Superstar, while Xiao is born to be a good player who can fly in the Superstar. Just being intimidated by Jia Yan, they naturally knew that they reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3003. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. There was thunderous laughter and laughter. A group of children were playing amusement park games in Chassis Town, which was their first time in Giant Tree City. There are thousands of branches, and children jump between them without fear of falling. Edisha and Xiaoyu were also joined in. They were playing this kind of ride for the first time and they were so happy. Jia Yan will not disturb the happy time of the two little guys. After all, childhood is short. Let them enjoy the wonderful childhood they deserve, and they will work harder in cultivation. So fun. Well, it's really fun. I want to play that again. The little fish pointed to the other end and threw the child around on two branches, an extremely exciting game. Go ahead, Jia Yan shook his head and let them play. The two little guys' faces glowed with joy, they took the coins and left. My friend, you must be an outsider. The two children are quite cute. Suddenly, a strange creature approached Jiayan. This is a being whose head looks like a scarab beetle, but whose body has limbs and exaggeratedly explosive muscles. Yes, we are outsiders. These two children are cute when they are cute, but they are also quite annoying when they can't be controlled. Ha ha ha, parents all have similar thoughts. It seems that all naughty children in the world have the same idea. Jia Yan was startled and said with a smile, I'm not their parents. Which one do you think looks like me? Oh, so you are their guardian. Yes, sir, who is your child? The scarab muscular man said, look over there, I happen to be standing with your two children. Jia Yan looked in the direction he pointed, and sure enough he saw a child with the head of a scarab beetle. However, he was holding hands with two adults who clearly looked like his parents. Haha, you don't have to look at me like that. I am his biological father, and that man is my wife's stepfather. Jia Yan looked strange. Is there a divorce law in this giant tree city? Yes, and they tend to be people with power and money. Here, people with great ability, money, and power can get everything they want. But if you are a low-level person like me, you will lose everything, kid. It's not my own, ha ha ha. The man stood up and said, actually, I envy you outsiders. You can leave after staying here for a while. You can't leave Giant Tree City. No way, if it were so easy to leave such a ghost place, I would have left long ago. Jia Yan looked thoughtfully at the scarab-headed man, then followed the men, women, and children. There is a law, but it is not a just law. Jia Yan chuckled. In fact, there is no absolutely fair and just law in the world. It is nothing more than relative fairness, but it cannot be absolutely fair. If this man knew the conditions in other places in Southern Star, I'm afraid he wouldn't think so. Other places may be more cruel than Giant Tree City. Jia Yan did not slander this person, but thought that his life was in the wrong direction. People who only blame themselves for not having the ability are actually pretty much the same. Although blaming themselves is actually a kind of escape. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. From Jia Yan's perspective, few of the decadent, incompetent, and weak are truly without any mistakes. Many times, they all have something to do with himself. Of course, this is a bit one-sided. It is not easy for Jia Yan to impose right or wrong on others. Anyway, that's what he thinks, and he will never give up this idea, otherwise his life will not reach this point. Brother Master, it was so fun, we are back. We're back. Aren't you going to play? That was really fun. Jia Yan looked at the red-faced Adisha and the little fish whose bubbles were getting bigger. He couldn't laugh or cry, I'm going to play. I'm afraid the tree will fall down. I don't believe it. Xiao doesn't believe it either. Many parents around looked at Jia Yan who was teasing the little girl with a smile, and they all smiled heartily. No one really thought that when Jia Yan said throw it out, he actually meant it. They are all junior domain masters. If he goes up to play, the other party's branches will definitely be broken. I'm afraid there will be fundamental problems with his body. Even if Jia Yan wants to play, they won't let him play. No one believes the truth. Jia Yan was helpless. 3 guests, this is our view room. Do you think you are satisfied with it? That's it? That night, Jia Yan and Edisha Xiao came to the mid-to-high-end hotel in Chassis Town at the foot of the big tree and checked into a room with a view from the outside. Looking outside, you can see the endless forest scenery, surrounded by lush branches and leaves, and countless small animals living and playing in the branches and leaves. Looking inside, you can see the lights of thousands of houses, and you can have a panoramic view of the hustle and bustle of the city. It really is like a paradise on earth. Giant Tree City is worthy of being a famous tourist city nearby. I'm afraid only Southern Star can boast such a view. Our Northern Superstar also has it. Okay, North Star has it. Among the three, Xiaoyuer and Xiaozijiajia often expressed their dissatisfaction with Nangxingxing. In fact, it was not really dissatisfaction, but she believed that her hometown could not lose to Nangxingxing. Children are always weirdly competitive. However, Jia Yan really didn't dare to say that the huge North Star would definitely not be as beautiful as the current scenery. After all, this cannot be said to be a specialty of South Star. North Star is so big, there might be a forest sea, and there might even be such huge trees. Maybe. But when it comes to Linhai, South Star is definitely the first choice. In this extremely luxurious scenery, Jia Yan also had a rare sleep. Of course, this was the kind of sleep that could be awakened anytime and anywhere under vigilance. He had not forgotten that he was sleeping on a giant tree that was somewhat hostile to him. The next day, the sun shines brightly. The light falling from the sky revived the three of them. It's so good to sleep. Little Fish slept well too. He slept for a long time and was in good spirits. Are you all awake? Let's go to the upper level today. Okay. They bid farewell to Chassis Town and walked along the wide road in a circular motion toward the upper level. There were cars coming and going all around, and there were also many life forms climbing up with their feet just like Jia Yan and the others. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. This friend, your racial characteristics are so strange. What race are you? There was a climber on the other side. After looking at Jia Yan and the others, he couldn't help but ask. Haha, my race is called the Giant Mosquito Tribe, and I may be the only member now. Really or not, that's too rare. I'm jealous, brother. My race is the largest in the neighborhood. Creatures of other races mistake me for someone else when I go out on the street all day long. The other person spoke in a funny way, and after chatting for a few words, we really became familiar with him. If you have time, when you get to Zhongji town, come and visit me at my house. Here is my contact information. When he was halfway there, he was out of breath and didn't want to go any further. He climbed onto a bus-like facility on the side of the road and walked away. Xiao, can you still bear it? My uncle is gone. If you can't bear it now, just say it's okay. No, the little fish will eat it. Little Pink is quite strong, because her target is vaguely locked on Edissa, thinking that Edissa is not much older than her, so she must not be too weak. But she forgot that Edissa was only at half-star level, while Xiao was only at heaven level. There was a huge gap between the two sides. The level of difficulty involved in operating under a giant star environment is completely different from that under a normal starry sky. Master has called a taxi, please wait a moment. No. Wow, I want to surpass Sister Adisha. Xiao lost his temper in a rare moment, tears rolled down his face, and even Jia Yan was a little surprised. This little guy has always been very well behaved, and even Jia Yan has forgotten her actual age. But now that she thinks about it, she is pretending to be sensible. Today's situation may not be a sudden outbreak, but the result of being suppressed. Children who leave their parents at such a young age are indeed very pitiful. Be obedient, let's go to the amusement park in the next town. I heard that the amusement park on the top floor has many more fun facilities. Do you want to know what they are? Oh, think. When the vehicle arrived, Jia Yan gently carried the little pink fish into the vehicle. Adisha followed silently, her expression unclear as to what the situation was, confused but somewhat understanding. Presumably, being with a child like Xiao will have some influence on her character. Whether it is a good influence or a bad influence, it will definitely develop in a more humane direction. After finally coaxing Xiao Yuer to sleep, Jia Yan, who was sitting in the car, let out a long breath. He looked at the scenery outside the car window and suddenly laughed for no reason. Adisha looked at Jia Yan again. Master, brother, why are you laughing? I am laughing at myself. I have never taken care of my own child. The child I took care of for the first time was actually my apprentice. There seemed to be several question marks on Adisha's forehead. Because she really didn't understand the reason for Jia Yan's sigh. You don't need to understand. Just treat it as a temporary brain cramp and emotion. Adisha, after you understand more emotional issues in the future, you will also have similar situations. So, is this situation a good thing or a bad thing? Jia Yan hesitated and then affirmed, it's still a good idea. Indecisiveness, sentimentality, or sensibility are all human traits. They appear occasionally. They are a good help for self-regulating emotions and promoting physical and mental development. If they are always, if you are this kind of person, then let it pass. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Oh, Edissa knows. Alas, it turns out that Edissa is also a sentimental woman. She sighed deeply and looked directly at Jia Yan. That night, they had reached the next town. Because he had several minor emotional problems in a row, Jia Yan was somewhat keenly aware of something. This tree is quite level. Jia Yan stared at the trunk of the big tree at his feet and thought silently. Yes, he observed that the residents of the entire giant tree city, outsiders, as well as Edisha and Xiao Yuer, and even himself, all showed emotions to some extent after entering the scope of the giant tree city. Loss of control, or a state of amplified emotions. You know, Jia Yan is a lower-level territory lord. Although this influence can be ignored, such influence is already terrifying. Is this one of your methods? It's quite daunting, but it's okay if it has a small impact. If you want to have a greater impact, don't blame me for being ruthless. They were just entertaining him. No matter how unreasonable Jia Yan was, he couldn't hit the smiling person. Besides, this situation probably didn't just happen after Jia Yan arrived, but it happened over a long period of time. The people in the entire city may lose control of their emotions, and many may become mentally disturbed, but no one has ever thought that this is the trouble caused by the giant tree itself. These things that affect people's emotions may also absorb the power of outsiders for their own use. In this way, we can understand why this giant tree is willing to let other creatures live in it, and even discover so many uses for it. I am willing to cooperate because it has its own benefits. Jia Yan looked down at the branches, smiled, and then closed the door to the guest room. He still said that this kind of method is actually like the supreme leader absorbing the powerful people from the entire galaxy. He doesn't care, as long as you don't provoke him. Whether the other party is well-intentioned or malicious is none of his business. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe. Be obedient, let's go to the amusement park in the next town. I heard that the amusement park on the top floor has many more fun facilities. Do you want to know what they are? Oh, think. When the vehicle arrived, Jia Yan gently carried the little pink fish into the vehicle. Adisha followed silently, her expression unclear as to what the situation was, confused but somewhat understanding. Presumably, being with a child like Xiao will have some influence on her character, whether it is a good influence or a bad influence. Will definitely develop in a more humane direction. After finally coaxing Xiao Yuer to sleep, Jia Yan, who was sitting in the car, let out a long breath. He looked at the scenery outside the car window and suddenly laughed for no reason. Adisha looked at Jia Yan again. Master, brother, why are you laughing? I am laughing at myself. I have never taken care of my own child. The child I took care of for the first time was actually my apprentice. There seemed to be several question marks on Adisha's forehead. Because she really didn't understand the reason for Jia Yan's sigh. You don't need to understand. Just treat it as a temporary brain cramp and emotion. Adisha, after you understand more emotional issues in the future, you will also have similar situations. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. So, is this situation a good thing or a bad thing? Jia Yan hesitated and then affirmed, it's still a good idea. Indecisiveness, sentimentality, or sensibility are all human traits. They appear occasionally. They are a good help for self-regulating emotions and promoting physical and mental development. If they are always, if you are this kind of person, then let it pass. Oh, Edissa knows. Alas, it turns out that Edissa is also a sentimental woman. She sighed deeply and looked directly at Jia Yan. That night, they had reached the next town. Because he had several minor emotional problems in a row, Jia Yan was somewhat keenly aware of something. This tree is quite level. Jia Yan stared at the trunk of the big tree at his feet and thought silently. Yes, he observed the entire